To order. How's everyone today? Okay, just a couple things before we get started. One of the things we're going to do is we will be giving the public, if time allows, for our regular meeting, about 2 minutes to have a public comment during the time of presentation. But during our public hearing, we're going to give the public 3 minutes. We will have time for the public, but regular meetings, we may not. But if we do, it'll be 2 minutes. And if we don't and run out of time, we do encourage you to send your letters into the chair, to me, okay? All right. So could I get a motion to open up the public hearing for 75 North 7th Street?
Second.
Do I have to say all in favor?
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Dan?
Good evening. So I'm joined here today by Dan Hubble, who is sitting in for Charlie. We also have Rod Morrison, our site civil engineer, here to provide a review of the final set of site plan documents that we submitted. We also have Tyler here from UAI, who will be presenting the elevation for 75 North 7th, which was recently approved by the Historic Preservation Commission. And then we have Jason Anderson from Anderson Design Group, who's here to present the elevation that was approved for 708 State Street, also known as 76 North 7th. So in addition, both Tyler and Jason will be presenting some graphical representations of changes to the ratio of windows to wall for both buildings, as was requested by Larry. So to start, I'll kick it over to Dan Hubble, who will just kind of quickly cover what our goals are for the meeting, and then he will pass it over to Rod to present the site plans. Dan?
Yep. Can you guys hear me okay?
Mhm.
So,
Sounds good.
okay, so essentially we're, being covered with you the materials that are in front of you. Tonight, we're looking for you to confirm the prior negative declaration and site plan approval for phase 2 and 3, and then also subdivision approval, in which we will be splitting 708 State Street into 2 lots and then consolidating 65 and 75 North 7th Street. And with that, I'm just going to hand it right over to Rod to cover his piece.
Okay, thanks.
Can I just interject for a second?
Yeah.
Excuse me. I thought the planning board issued subdivision approval when it issued phase 1, because the phase 1 permit would not have been able to be granted unless it was on its own lot at the time. So I'll go back and check while we're talking, but I just want to have you guys confirm that as well.
Thank you, Victoria.
Okay, thanks. If you don't mind, I'll share screen.
Mhm.
We have created a resubmission set of documents just in response to the board's questions and comments from last time. Largely, they are a refinement of plans that we had previously submitted. We're bringing the architecture more in tune and in sync with the site design as we work to progress through more and more detail in the set. So a couple things to highlight in here. Most of this, as I said, stayed the same. The proposed subdivision plat is this draft subdivision plat. None of that changed from what we were proposing previously. We created, really coming from your comments and questions, Larry, a more detailed picture of the phasing. We added phasing sheets into this plan set, and I returned the demolition plan to more of a demolition sheet. And just lingering here for a moment, because when we go and construct phase 2, we had on phase 1, we had a fence line that ran along the edge of the the gravel drive, which will become the alley in this phase two. That fence line needs to be moved a bit, obviously for logistics. Also, the area in front of the brewery is also labeled as a storage area for phase two. So just clarifying the items that we had previously talked about. Site plan, again, more refinement, same sidewalk layout, alley layout, everything of that nature. Again, just progressing towards construction level documents. So we had imported the most current architectural plans for both new buildings, and you'll hear about those in a moment, but our site plans are in sync with the footprints of those buildings. What I want to get to here is just a little bit further down in the set, again, to bring us to what you were asking about, Larry. Couple more to go, a lot of drawings. Phase two and phase three, we entered graphics into the plan set. So phase three, of course, is the building to the west of North 7th Street with phase two completed, which includes a remote parking lot and the building to the east of North 7th Street. Phase two, again, just because I know this line had been somewhat confusing, outlines the area of construction, obviously for phase two. So it does include the removal of this area that's labeled as a construction staging area in the demolition plan, finishes that off with lawn, and underground here is the build out of our stormwater system. That line intentionally follows the edge of the existing brewery and the existing deck, because we need to pave this area and finish the parking up here. So it has evolved from the last submission, but I just wanted to point that out. We had done also, just for pictorial reference, rendering of the entire site, showing actually, in this case, all three phases. We did split those into phase two here and phase three here, again, to just hopefully graphically describe what gets built in what order. I think on my end, I'm good with that. Jason, would you go next?
I'd be more than happy to. All right, so again, Jason Anderson, Anderson Design Group, architect working on 708 State Street, so 76 North 7th. I'll share my screen if that's all right. All right, so you should be able to now see a perspective view looking down State Street, or 7th actually. So what we've got here is our building is on the right. So what we presented last time has not changed from our last planning board meeting. Essentially what we see here is the elevation that was approved through the HPC. So I'll zoom in a little bit here just to give a brief overview for those that haven't seen it. So we've got real brick that comes down all the way from the top of the 4th floor down to the ground. We have storefront that aligns North 7th, and then up in the roof here, we have a mansard roof with dormers that project. So similar to what was approved previously, but some modifications to the massing based on what we heard from HPC, some adjustments that they wanted, which really I think helped the building because we projected some of the elements out and recessed a few others in. And this is where we ended up with that approval. Look to the next image. This is down the alley. So what Rod was mentioning, there's the alley that connects to the brewery, or the back of the brewery. So this is along that alley. So here we've got the same, basic shape as it wraps around. And the transition, which we've been speaking about from real brick to EFIS, happens around the back of the building. So EFIS being synthetic stucco in the back here. One thing we did add, which we showed, of course, last time we were all on together, were 3D views of the building. So this gives you a little bit better understanding of some of the projections that were requested, the facade changes that were made. And here you can see sort of the hierarchy of the building and the the rhythm that was created there. This is looking basically along North 7th, and then here's the rear of the building. One thing that we were asked to do last time was do a comparison study to see between what was originally approved and what's here we're presenting today, and basically to look at what's the wall to glass ratio. And so that's what we did here. So if you look at the image above, this was the original rendering that was created. Here is the rendering that we were all just looking at. And so if you notice off to the right,
What
we
is
had
the
a-
address to this building? Which one is
So
this?
this is North 7th.
Okay, great.
Yeah, 76 North 7th.
Mhm.
So still the same
Formerly
building.
known as 708 State. So this is the building on the east side
Mhm.
of North 7.
Gotcha.
I still have trouble with the addresses myself where I'm at. So what you see here is what was approved previously. This is what we're looking at tonight. And again, what's down below here is what was approved through the HPC. So we analyzed the glazing to wall ratio with 27.3% in the original submission, not including the louvers, which are shown, and then currently we're at 23.4%. One thing we were asked to do in addition to this is also look at, just what does the voids look like, in my opinion, basically a
Yeah.
massing study to understand what that is. So essentially taking what we just looked at and placed here, you can basically see here's the massing, right, going up the 5 stories. What you see back here is not the mansard, that's the roof beyond, right? So same thing here on the proposed west elevation. And you can see the adjustments that were made between the two.
Okay, less windows.
And that's about all that I've got on my list to present as an overview.
Okay.
Okay.
And just a reminder to everyone, this is the 63 unit building, which also, as in the other building, has 4 commercial spaces on the ground floor along North 7th Street.
Okay.
So next, Tyler, are you able to pull up your drawings for UAI?
Sure, yes, I can do that. My name is Tyler Torville. I'm an architect with Urban Architectural Initiatives, or UAI. And I will share my screen to present what we have. So similarly to Jason's team, we put together some drawings for the Historic Preservation Commission. And so that's what you're seeing in front of you here. This is the elevation on the west side of North 7th Street of the building. Address is 75 North 7th Street.
Mhm.
And so the building, what we're proposing is basically along this street and on Rope Alley, which you'll see in a second, is a 5-story brick building. There's 3 different volumes that comprise the building. The volume here on the left is a little narrower than the volume on the far right. Both of those are right on the street, the property line. The volume in the middle here is actually set back about 8 feet from the street line. And then that also has a mansard roof. So we did all of that, and it's very similar to the original proposal. And I'll show a comparison of that in a second. On the ground floor, we have 3 different treatments for storefronts over there that comprise the 4 retail spaces that Dan mentioned, as well as entry to the residential portion of the building, which is right here on the right side of the center volume. And on the next sheet, I have an image of the Rope Alley elevation. And so you'll see here, we're also proposing brick from the cellar floor all the way up. And the elevations beyond are actually the EFIS material that we had discussed on the other project as well. But here on the Rope Alley side, on the front view, right on the street, is going to be brick. And then we just have some fencing beyond. So these elevations were the ones that were approved by the Historic Preservation Commission. And similarly to Jason's team, we also put together a comparison of the previous and the current scheme. And so you'll see here on the bottom is the elevation that we were just looking at on 7th Street. And on the top here is the previous elevation that was approved by the planning board previously.
Right.
So in our case, we went from about 23.8% glazing area to about 26% glazing area, about a 2% increase. But largely the design is very similar. The massing is basically the same with the slight variation of the volume here on the left, just because of how the unit layouts worked out inside of the building. But other than that, really no changes to our proposal. We did increase the window proportions based on some comments and feedback from the Historic Preservation Commission. And so that is kind of what represents that increase in the glazing area. And we also prepared that, solid void diagram for these two buildings. So the image on the top is the previous, and the image on the bottom is our current design. And that'll maybe help give you a sense of the volumetric change. So slightly differently than Jason's seeing, we're actually showing the mansard area here in the white. And then you're not seeing a roof line beyond that. It stops at the top of the mansard. The rest of what's represented here in red is the solid wall area, and the white is the glazing area.
And you have this also in the other address, right? The other building?
Are you referring to 76 North 7th?
Yeah, 76. Isn't it underneath there?
No, what's shown on the screen here is both 75 North 7th Street. And Jason's team, he just presented the same diagram for 76 North 7th Street.
Okay, gotcha.
So the drawing on the top is a representation of the elevation that we provided in our original site plan application to the planning board. The one on the bottom is the design that was approved by the Historic Preservation Commission.
And what you're presenting to us now in your change, your modification. In other words,
That's
this
correct.
is the first time we as the planning board is seeing this change.
This is the first time you're seeing it in this representation. And yeah, this is my most recent submission to the planning board, is the first time you've seen the final approved elevations from the Historic Preservation Commission, since we just got approval from them a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, that's it. Anything else? Okay, I want to say something before. I noticed that in some cases you addressed, Dan, to Larry. And I just want everybody to know that Larry is a member of a 7-board planning board. He represents the planning board. When he asks you a question or asks for something, he's asking for all 7 of us. It's just that he'll ask because he'll put it in the words that you may understand, because he is the only architect on the board. So when I don't want it to seem like it's all Larry. It's not. It's all of us that want whatever we request is coming from all of us. Okay. So it's be nice in the future, just say planning board, not just Larry.
I'll certainly.
Everything you've done. And I'm excited by this program. And I just want everybody to know that there were changes to the windows and the material, but the apartments are the same. You still plan on having a total of 138 apartments. Okay.
I have a question. If you have a minute.
I'm opening this up to the planning board now. Clark?
Thank you, Teresa. I know in the first submission, you talked about the exterior materials, real brick versus, I guess, your stucco version. Can you explain in this building too what the exterior materials are? I'm assuming the historic preservation was also concerned with that, but please explain the exterior materials relative to the brick versus, I guess, the facsimile or faux brick, I would call it maybe.
Is that directed at for the 75 North 7th Street? This project that we're seeing on the screen here?
The one that you just discussed, yes.
Yep. Okay. So yes, we were considering a different material for the street facing facades previously. But after discussions with the Historic Preservation Commission, we've decided to move in a different direction. And so what we're proposing now is just a full depth standard brick wall that you might normally see both on the North 7th Street facade and on the Rope Alley facade, as well as on the rear and base of the building, just the first floor and the cellar in the back, on the back sides of the building. And the floors above that, we're proposing an insulated finish system, which is meant to mimic the color of the brick, but otherwise is a different material.
The stucco finish.
Yeah, with a stucco finish.
Got it. And maybe I'm being a little slow here, but please explain the stucco finish. Where is that going?
Yeah, that's really only going on the rear of the building. So you're not seeing it in this view, and you're only getting a glimpse of it over here in this view because these floors back here are, some 80 feet away from the street or more. So you'll see it a little bit here and then also on the back side of the building moving around.
So this entire back elevation is the stucco brick.
The image you're seeing right here is all brick for this entire volume.
Okay.
And then only this area back here is going to be the stucco finish, but that's also 80 plus feet away from the street.
Got it.
And
Tyler, it might help if you just pan down a little bit and show the board the plan diagram. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, sure. The plan diagram. So the elevation that we're seeing here is on Rope Alley, is on this street. And then the other elevation I was showing was this entire frontage on North 7th Street.
Okay.
And both of those are 100% real brick with a color that's been chosen to try to match the Upper Depot building.
Okay. As we're looking at the plan view, bear with me for a second. Just explain as you're going around the building, what's the real stuff and what's the stucco? Again, apologies for being a little slow, but the visual is very helpful. The elevations are fine, but you kind of lose context. So as we're looking at this plan view, kindly explain again where the brick is and where the stucco faux brick is.
Yes. Okay. So the area I've just outlined in red, this is all real brick. The other facades we're planning to show the stucco finish.
With brick on the first floor and then stucco above.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that north face is up against the firehouse, is that right?
That's correct.
And that's also EFS?
That's correct.
And if you once again bear with me, I know we went through this. Can you do the same for the building you already reviewed with this plan view for materials?
Oh, I understand. Yes. Let me.
ADG has to do that one.
Sorry, are you asking about 76 North 7th Street, the other building?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So,
sure. Let's kick it over to Jason then. Jason, do you want to share your screen and give your materials overview here?
Thank you for bearing with me here.
Okay, so here we go with ours. So if I were to do the same thing as Tyler, our brick, this is Railroad Avenue. Now I come down North 7th. This is all real brick. Then I come up to the alley. So that's our real brick. And then the other is stucco that wraps around the building. So if you were to look here on this next page, so here's the actual brick, Century Red. And then the Drive It Winter Brown is the stucco.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yep.
My turn. I have a question. we had gotten the images today, the red elevations that showed peaks on the face of the building. And the one that you just showed is basically a plain. Which one are we talking about here?
So it's not really a peak. So that's part of the gable. It's just in that block study, it'll appear that way. Probably the
Okay.
best.
All right. I couldn't even see that. So
Yeah. So probably the best way to understand it is right here.
gotcha.
You can see
Okay.
how it
I
pitches
see it
back.
now. Yep.
Yeah. Just in the
Okay.
other view, it
Thanks.
showed up that way.
I was confused.
Yeah, I know.
Old eyes.
Any more questions from the planning board? Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public. Any questions from the public?
Yes, hi, this is Margaret Morris. I raised my hand. So we've been discussing a lot about the exterior of the building and what it's going to look like and so forth. Do we have layouts of the apartments and specifications regarding the apartments, and also what the parking arrangements are for individuals living in these apartments? So where are the details on the specs on the individual apartments in this building? And the specs regarding parking for individuals living in this buildings?
Don't you have a web page, Dan?
Perhaps I think maybe it would be useful to loop Dan Hubble in just to kind of clarify what we're asking for in this submission. I know this planning board, we all did a lot of work on parking and these other questions, which was addressed in the initial site plan application process.
Yeah.
And now we're asking for a site plan amendment.
No.
That is,
Oh, yeah.
Correct. So just to remind everybody, we're coming for an amended site plan approval. We had a prior site plan where parking issues were analyzed and reviewed. None of the changes to the site plan have anything to do with parking, I believe. And so we fully vetted that with the planning board in the prior approvals.
I know, but I think she's just asking if there is any place, can you send her to your website to find, to look at stuff like that? Or I think that's.
Okay, may I interject?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ms. Morris, the planning board is mostly focused on the exterior of the building and how the parking and the improvements interface with the public and the streets. So we are not focusing on the interior layout of the building. That is information that I'm sure the applicant has and can provide. But the planning board does not get into the detail about, which apartments will get assignments of available parking spaces.
That's not the question I am asking. I am asking as a member of the public, can we please see some layouts for the apartments that are proposed in this massive development? And I would like to know where those layouts are and where are they posted so that we can look at them. Because it's all very fine to be worrying about stucco and brick, but what actually are the apartments that are being proposed? I would like to know where those layouts are and where I can look at them. That's all.
So that's something our design team is still working through and is generally not a requirement for a site plan application to have the board review unit layouts.
Correct.
I think it's kind of problematic that the little details of where people are actually going to live and what their apartment's going to look like, that's like not something that you're addressing in this. I would really like to see something around what are the layouts for the apartments, how many studios are there, how many square feet are there, what does this look like? That actually to me is pretty fundamental when you develop an apartment complex.
I'm sure that the applicant will have a website up soon where every member of the public will be able to go to that website and you'll get your questions answered.
Yes.
But that's not what we're doing tonight.
Okay,
It's certainly something we'll be sharing in the future.
can I just hop in here? You know, I think there are community civic bodies that do look at those things like the IDA, right? And I would imagine that on the city website, the submissions to IDA would be on their website. I mean, on the city's website under their documents, in the same way that we have planning documents on our site, because certainly all the pro formas about unit counts and how many 3 bedrooms and how many 2 bedrooms, I mean, that information's out there. It's public. I think the questions are entirely reasonable about where to find the information. I think the jurisdictional question is a real one. We don't have jurisdiction over those things, but I think the member of the public asking the question just needs to be directed to where she can find that info. And
That's exactly right.
yeah, so
And they're going to make sure you don't have a website now?
but it doesn't even matter. I mean, it's got to be on that. I mean, Victoria, do you represent IDA? Who's the lawyer for IDA?
Okay, yeah, my partner represents the IDA. I mean, I don't have the IDA file.
Have you been to IDA yet?
But
Yes, Larry's correct. All of the unit distributions, all of that information is in our IDA submissions, which are all public and are posted on the city website.
Okay, so she can go to the city web. So where can she go and get it? To the city website?
She just has to type in City of Hudson IDA, navigate over to active projects. The Galvin project is listed on there. I'm looking at it now.
I don't think it includes the layouts necessarily, but it would have unit counts and other kinds
There's
of.
there's unit counts and descriptions of the units within our application materials.
Okay, if you send that information to us, we'll make sure she gets it.
Yeah,
It's right on the website. I mean, I'm literally looking at it right now.
I mean, it's a simple question, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yes, we don't have jurisdiction over the interior layout, but you guys have shown us interior layout, right? When you changed the site plan, you told us why, because the shape needed to change because of the interior layout, right? So it's a good question. Let's not lawyer up on these questions. They're a straightforward question. Let's send the member of the public to the information that's publicly available and move along.
Planning board,
fair
you're hurting my feelings.
Okay, Margaret, did you get that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
It just seems to me that, I think the planning board does a very good job, but worrying about only the exterior of the building without actually thinking as a planning board about the interior of the building and the living experience of the people in the building, it seems to me the planning board should have a little bit more insight and what can I say, input.
Okay, thank you.
It's not just a shell. It's not just about whether it's going to be brick or whether it's going to be something else. It's people living in a building.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Do we have anything else?
I might agree with that. I think that we could change Article 8 and perhaps give us more jurisdiction over those things, and then we can.
And until then,
as a council member, I will work on it.
Until then, we'll go to the next public person. We'll go to the next public comment. Anyone else? Margaret, put your hand down.
Yeah, if the common council wants to take that up and help us out.
Anyone else?
Careful what you wish for.
Right.
Hi, Teresa.
Who's
Hi,
talking?
hi, it's Dominic Morenti.
Hi, Dominic.
I don't know. I don't know if this is an external question, but I'm wondering, especially today with the power situation, is there going to be an external power source for backup power? Outside the building, for heat and air condition if the power goes out.
Oh, I don't think.
I don't know if that's an external question or No, I know
It's
it's not
a
a
great
requirement.
question because if there is one, it needs to be shown on the site plan.
And it's not on the site plan, is it?
No, there is no specifications. Correct, Jason and
Correct.
Tyler?
That's correct. No, for all the life safety components, we have UPS systems, but there is no backup generator, whole building generator for the building.
It is a UPS system.
So like what you, for your computer, how you have a little battery pack to make sure that it stays on till you can shut it off. Same thing for an elevator, for a fire alarm, all of those life safety components. And then there's independent battery backup for emergency lights and exit signs, things like that. So that's the way we address all of that.
Dominic, you got that?
So basically, if the power goes out in the wintertime, there's an issue for these tenants
Yeah.
for heat. And in the summertime, we did have, Bliss Towers, almost for 4 or 5 days was out, and that was a big, draw on the city and the residents, to provide services. So traditionally, I thought apartment complex like this do have a form of backup power, for the residents in the case of an emergency.
This would have been a wonderful input back in 2021, right? When they first came to us. But right now, I guess all I can say is thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next, anybody else? You hear that for the next building you do?
I have a
Something we'll
question.
look.
If the public is done, or
Okay.
interject. I said this a few times in the past, but a reminder, early on, it was Larry and Laura and myself as the subcommittee looking at the schedule, et cetera. And I guess I've asked a few times since this has changed, is timing of the schedule. And we, I think, worked in depth over 2 meetings looking at scheduling. That was before your phase 1, 2, and 3. So my question continues to be, since you did present the schedule earlier, has it been updated? And I think this is valuable for the citizens of Hudson to know what your plan is relative to digging, et cetera. There's a lot of discussion on life safety and closing of streets and movement of materials and all that. And again, I think first round, during our first approval process, that was all, I guess, presented in detail. And with this new round, obviously the schedule has changed, but we haven't seen any of that.
Has
the
the
relevance-
schedule changed? Has
No,
the
the proposed
schedule
schedule has not changed
The
for,
schedule has not changed at all.
no, the schedule we presented originally didn't include phase 1 or the brewery at all. It was always just phase 2 and 3.
Got it. But in terms of timing, everything's the same based on what we had presented. And again, I don't have it in front of me. I just have a
Yeah.
recollection. There were in fact real dates on that. And I'm wondering, and maybe my first question is, I'm wondering if that schedule is holding. You're saying it is holding. So the stuff that you presented in the past, the schedule has not changed.
Yes.
Yeah, the proposed schedule hasn't changed. I mean, we've always been clear that it's subject to timing of financing, but in terms of the projected duration of each of the different
Right. So
components of the construction, none of those assumptions have changed, and nothing that we've submitted in our site plan amendment.
well, when you
has
say
been
it hasn't changed, it certainly has changed because those have beginning and end dates. So the beginning and end dates, I get the duration may not have changed,
Yeah.
but the beginning and end dates certainly have changed. So that, I guess,
Well,
is
if
my
I can,
question.
yeah, if I can jump in here. So we could not apply, much of the start time on this project is dependent upon when we receive funding from the state Department of Division of Housing and Community Renewal to fund the construction of the affordable units. We have an application pending before the state right now. We haven't received word of that. We could not submit that application until we got the site plan approval, the original site plan approval, which we received last year. So then we had to wait for the next funding round to apply, which is this spring. We've applied. We're waiting to hear from them now. So in terms of the schedule,
Let me interject it. We actually, they just came out with announcements. Unfortunately, our project was beat out by a couple of more competitive projects in the capital region. So we did not get that award. So we'll be
Okay.
reapplying in September. But our intended goal remains the same, which is to, construct the projects as closely in tandem as possible. But in the same token, for 76 North 7th, we're still in the process of obtaining financing for that building as well. So the start dates have always been, subject to many factors outside of our control. The duration that we're projecting, none of that has changed.
Okay. again, I think if we're looking at our task as health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Hudson, I guess I would ask, at what point will you be presenting to the public when you have real dates? It's important, given the fact that that whole place will be a construction site for a long time. And it's valuable for everyone to know when that's going to be. So maybe it's beyond our scope here now, and I get it that maybe the duration hasn't changed, but beginning and end is very important. And maybe you can't tell us now, but it seems to me that you should be explaining to us when you can tell us that. Us being citizens of Hudson.
Yeah, so we'll certainly publish that information as part of our IDA commitments. We've committed to have a community advisory board for the building. And we've also committed, as part of the conditions for our original planning board submission, to have postings around the building and to have a call-in line essentially for any folks in the public who have questions or concerns during the process. So, you know, we're completely committed to following through on that. It's a requirement of the approval, and it'll be another way for us to keep people up to date, because, you know, unfortunately, construction can be unpredictable and timelines can change. But, you know, I think what we presented originally was pretty conservative and realistic, and, you know, we'll be doing our best to stick with it.
I guess I would just advise, when that happens, please advise the planning board too, so we can get the word out as well.
Sure thing.
Okay, can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. So now, Victoria, what are we going to go to the resolution?
Yep, let me bring it up.
Okay, thank you.
So I am going to share a resolution to grant site plan approval to phases 2 and 3 of the Depot District project. So it recites that Galvin had initially submitted an application for subdivision and site plan amendment. It modifies approvals that were granted back in October 2021. At some point, you broke out phase 1 and 2 and they came back in. So we have all that in. Phase 1 focuses exclusively on the brewery. You closed the public hearing with respect to phase 1 back in May, but we left it open for phases 2 and 3. You granted subdivision approval and phase 1 approval May 24th. And then we continued looking at new submissions for phases 2 and 3. On July 12th, you closed the public hearing with respect to 2 and 3, which you just did. So now therefore be it resolved, Planning Board reaffirms the negative declaration adopted in September 2021, finding that the project as proposed will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be prepared. So again, in order to make that finding, you have to determine that the changes they've proposed are not going to warrant or result in an environmental impact statement. Nothing was substantially different than what you reviewed the first time around.
Right.
And then be it further resolved, Planning Board hereby grants site plan approval for phase 2 and 3 of the project as shown on the site plan set, subject to certain conditions. Payment of fees in escrow, revision of the site plan to include an owner's signature block and Planning Board signature block. Be it further resolved, any and all applications for additional buildings or improvements located at the property shall be presented to the Planning Board for additional approval. Be it further resolved, the Planning Board's approval of phase 2 and 3 shall not alter any of its phase 1 approval. And then before you get a building permit, we would like a PDF of the fully signed site plan.
Could I get a motion to accept this resolution?
To adopt, yeah.
To adopt.
I will. Jane,
So Jean, you got the motion?
yes.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Valerie. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so then it passes, right? It's adopted.
Adopted.
Good luck. I'm excited. I can't wait to see the completed project.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I get a motion to open up the public hearing for 402-406 Warren Street, which is the Hudson Public?
So
So,
moved.
yeah,
Okay. Are you here today? Where are you? Dan, is that
Good
you?
evening, everyone. So we are back. I have Dan Hubble with me, who's also working on this project, as is Rod Morrison, a site civil engineer. And we also have Matthew Tether, our project architect. At this point, we're really focused on just reviewing the letter that we received from Verity Engineering, the planning board's engineer. We're going to have Rod kind of go through that and just detail where we are on our responses. We also understand that there have been some questions around how we're going to handle deliveries. So Matthew Tether is going to address those questions. But first, I want to turn it over to Dan Hubble just to outline what we hope to achieve in the meeting today and what we see as the next steps. Dan?
Yep, thanks, Dan. So again, we're mainly here just to listen to any public comments or any comments that the planning board or the public may have. Our intent is to respond to those in writing. Again, we received a letter from Verity Engineering. Comments appear to be rather minimal. I do know that there was one issue in regard to whether this needed to be referred to SHPO or not. My understanding is that Charlie was talking with Victoria today about that. And so that's one item that I think we'll need to deal with after this meeting, just to make sure that we've checked that box. But other than that, we're interested to hear what everyone has to say and also to talk about the engineer's letter. Rod?
Actually, Teresa, does it make sense to let Lindsay and or Aaron present their findings before we hear? The public hasn't seen the letter, right? So
No, you're right.
maybe what we should do is have Verity.
Wait, Linda, did
address-
you post a letter? Okay, so it was posted, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we have no
Just
objection to
take
that.
few
That's a great
minutes
idea.
And have Lindsay, present their findings, and then we can hear the applicant's response to this.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Sure, I can go through our comment letter. So we listed out everything that we reviewed, included the application for site plan review, the environmental assessment form, the traffic assessment, as well as parking assessment that was completed by Cretin Manning. All of those documents are listed in our review letter. We had pretty minimal comments through our review. One was on the environmental assessment form. It was just a box that was checked incorrectly. Based on our review, the project is within an archaeological sensitive area. We don't believe that's an issue. We just need to make sure that that form's corrected. I reviewed the traffic and the parking analysis. I agreed with the Cretin Manning's assessment that the impact to traffic would be minimal based on the proposed development. Reviewed the parking in depth. I also reviewed the parking for the other larger developments that had gone on in the city of Hudson in this area. So I made sure to review it in that context to make sure that there wasn't overlapping use of parking that was unaccounted for. Through that review, my assessment is that there isn't going to be a significant impact to on-street parking. Their assessment that the use of on-street parking demand, as we've started to think about it as far as the occupancy rate of on-street parking, would be less than 60%, even with the proposed elimination of a few parking spaces for that loading zone. And then we didn't have any comments on the proposed site plan.
Lindsay, is that primarily because the hotel parking is overnight guests and businesses on Warren Street are closed? How
How'd you come about that?
So, yeah, I mean, as we've discussed all along, I mean, the parking occupancy issue really becomes overnight, not necessarily because there's more demand, but because parking tends to be cut in half when the restrictions are in place. And that's the more conservative way to look at it. So the parking counts were done overnight. Also, hotel users are overnight. And this is when available on-street parking is essentially at half capacity for the city. So that's when the occupancy rate was looked at. I agree with that approach. It's the more conservative approach to look at it overnight. And again, the occupancy rate is below 60%. And, you know, it's when you get up to 85, 90% where it's really a concern. So we're not near that threshold. Again, I made sure to look at where we were at relative to the other developments and that we weren't double counting. And this is kind of on the outskirts, doesn't really overlap the parking radius for the other developments that have been recently approved.
I have a question for you. In the traffic study, one thing I noticed was it was done on a day in January when it was like 12 degrees out with a 20-mile-an-hour wind. It had just snowed. And it didn't seem to be realistic to me with real time. Is there any magic to doing a study then as opposed to doing it in nice weather when there are more people out, more traffic on the road and those kinds of things?
Yeah, the traffic might have been a little less given the weather conditions, but the impact of the traffic and the level of service that there is, even if traffic was 10% higher, it wouldn't have had a significant impact to the level of service. So if it was showing that it was going from a C to a D level of service, those thresholds tend to tip a little bit faster, and with less traffic when you're at those kind of numbers and that level of delay. You don't have that here. So even if traffic were to say double, you know, the site or, you know, traffic were to increase, you wouldn't see a significant impact on that intersection.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying you will not, even on 4th Street between Warren and Columbia, it will not be an impact where the loading is right on 4th Street, I believe, right?
Yeah, it is proposed to remove the on-street parking spaces on 4th Street, that one side of 4th Street. And I made sure that those spaces were accounted for. I mean, again, it's well below that 60% threshold. So, you know, even if another development were to be approved within, you know, the next block, I don't think you'd start to see overnight parking issues in this particular area.
Do you remember how many spaces they're going to be removing from 4th Street?
I believe it was 5.
Yeah, because there's 2 sides of the street parking on 4th Street.
Yeah. And it's the other side of the street. You know, we always have this issue where odd even days, there's more parking or less parking available depending on the number of driveways.
And they don't have meters on that. On 4th Street, there are no meters.
Yeah, so this was it wouldn't impact the day where there's a lower parking count.
But traffic, it won't impact the traffic like people trying to go from, okay. Because that block is a straight block straight to the library.
Yeah, the traffic will have a really minimal effect. Typically, you want to look at it a lot more closely if you're talking about more than 100 trips in an hour. This is significantly less than that.
Oh.
Can we talk about the delivery plan? Maybe the engineer can walk us through how, when, where deliveries will take place for the hotel operations.
And could
Rod,
you share the diagram? Yeah, share the diagram.
Could you share the site plan, Rod? And then we've got Matthew Tether here from our project architect to help discuss how we see the logistics.
And Matt and I did talk about this yesterday, so I'm just giving everyone a heads up on that.
Here you go. Here's the site plan. And thank you, Lindsay. That's way better than I would have done.
Hi, everyone.
Excellent.
Hi, everyone. This is Matthew Tether with Liska McCormick Van Voris Architects. So here's our proposed site. Warren Street, North 4th Street, and this is the Prison Alley back here. So along 4th Street here, the main intention is to make sure that Warren Street, the primary avenue here, remains clean and open and empty. That along here, this is a longer exposure, more flexible, more room to work with to have deliveries along here. Currently, there's an access point here. In terms of scheduling and operations, deliveries, from a large part of it is planning, but a large part of it's also operations. And from an operational standpoint, deliveries need to be scheduled at off hours. And at off hours, this would be a control point here. Even if the entrance point was somewhere else, it would still be along North 4th Street here.
Matthew, I don't know where here is. I'm not seeing.
Yeah.
What I think is occurring is when Dan asked me to share, I did so, and Matthew probably tried to do it shortly after that. So let me take down my screen, and Matthew, you can put yours up.
Okay, I would, Rob, I was pointing at yours. Let me see if I can share mine.
Yeah, that's not how Zoom works.
So here's our site here with Warren Street along the bottom, and this is North 4th Street here, the alley in the back. There is an area here where there is access to the building, but the small alley really is not feasible for deliveries. So again, the deliveries are planned for along 4th Street, where we do currently show an access point to the building here. And the plan is for deliveries to be done at off hours, where we were saying that we're well below the 60% threshold, so that there should be adequate room to make that happen. But either way, the intention is to keep Warren Street open, free, and clear.
So wait, so deliveries happen on 4th Street? Where's the check-in desk or the lobby entry?
Currently, this is the entrance point right here. You know, there are some other options that are currently being considered for how some spaces on the inside might be reconsidered. Currently, the entrance is here, but I think regardless, if this is a delivery zone along here for vehicles, an entrance point would be somewhere along this facade here. So deliveries would be along 4th Street.
Oh, that's
North
for
4th Street.
deliveries?
For deliveries.
So what's this in the back? Can you see my little thing?
Yeah.
Over here, down, over, keep going. Here, yes. What's that?
This is a back access. The issues here are you would have to come all the way around down onto this smaller alleyway to get here. And this is not necessarily a supervised area after hours, where this would always be a post here at a reception desk. So it's a little bit more circuitous to come over and get over here. And this is not this would not be normally a supervised back door. Yes, it would be possible to have deliveries here and brought around over here. This is a more narrow alleyway, not as conducive to have delivery vehicles come to this location.
Do you have a more detailed site plan like that we were looking at a second ago? I seem to recall that trash and some other services are off of Prison Alley.
My computer might move a little slowly, so if you could be patient with that, I'll try to scroll down.
Where? I don't see it.
I'm just trying to scroll down my screen here, please. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Ooh. Yes.
All right, it's just moving slowly.
Okay, so
Well, I was trying to get to show the floor plan where you had mentioned that there was an area where there was another access point. So here, the plans are rotated here on this sheet. So if I'm looking at the plan on the upper left, this is the first floor or ground floor plan. So to the right would be Warren, along the bottom would be North 4th Street, and this would be the alley over here on the left. There is a way that you could come down this back entranceway and come through a door here. There are some other trash and other areas here where you could come back into a kitchen. This is another area where you could come through. This back alley is a little bit narrow and a little bit difficult for vehicles, where vehicles could park along North 4th Street here. From this point, you could have access in here if you need to get to an elevator, or if you need to get into a kitchen or other areas. It is possible that deliveries could come back down here and come back in through the stacked back door. This is where the trash would come out of the building. You're correct. This would be the trash area over here in the back. This hatched area with a tone on it, this would be exterior. So it would be possible for deliveries coming in or other items coming out that could come from this alleyway through here to this back door. So that is another access point. Regardless, I think the vehicle staging area would be here along North 4th Street.
But that's not big enough for a truck, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, which one is big enough for a truck?
The one in the back, the one here, this L, what is it? H shape, L shape.
This would not be big enough
yeah.
for, this would not be big enough for vehicles. For example, here we see a double door. So a single leaf would be about 3 feet. So, you know, maybe this is about 5 feet wide. So you couldn't bring a vehicle back in here. The alleyway.
Can you back a truck into there and unload? No?
I'm sorry?
Would you be able to back a truck to unload?
I believe that you could probably back a truck in here to unload, but it's tight. It's not ideal. It's a more narrow alleyway.
You know, my concern
about this.
My concern here is that they're not going to back in. They're going to drive in. They're going to park next to the neighboring parcel and do deliveries out the back of the truck.
And block the alleyway?
Block the alleyway and take everything. I mean, the restaurant, the biggest deliveries are going to be laundry and restaurant, right? And that's going to happen through that Z-shaped exterior walkway, which means the truck is going to turn right onto Prison Alley, drive up the alley, park with the tail of the vehicle at the Z-shaped exterior walkway, and they're going to block the alley, but more significantly, they're going to block the neighbor's property, not the applicant's property.
Yeah, because their neighbors are residential.
And I believe that's why the intention is to have the vehicles staging along North 4th Street.
But if you stage it along North 4th Street, you're going to not only take up your loading path, but you're going to take up parking.
And again, I think that's why that falls under the larger concept of we're being well below the 60% threshold that we do have the capacity.
I'm just questioning whether it's realistic to have trucks parking at your hotel entrance where people would be entering, loading, unloading their own cars, and where guests would be coming and going.
Correct. And that's a good point. And I think that's why we envision this as also being an operational issue, that deliveries would need to be scheduled at off hours.
Correct.
Can I chime in here real quick, Teresa?
Please.
Craig. Hi, everybody. This is Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Two things I just want to bring to the planning board's attention. I keep hearing them say off hours. That needs to be specified because we have a noise control for loading, unloading, any type of work or anything of that nature in the city. And also the alleys are designed for loading and unloading. Just about every business on Warren Street gets their deliveries in the rear in the alleys because it will block the alley for a temporary purpose. If you put them trucks on 4th Street, we're going to have the same problem we do on any other street or any other side street. Because they will block traffic, it will slow traffic, but more importantly, emergency access. So I don't know why they keep saying that the alley shouldn't be used for deliveries. Every business in the city uses the alley for deliveries.
I don't think we talk that much about this.
Right, this is Margaret. I've had my hand up.
Wait, Margaret, we're not ready yet, please. I will call on you when we call on the public, please.
Well, Craig was able to speak for some reason.
I understand, but please, we're not ready yet.
Okay,
Craig, one of the things I was saying, I don't
speaking-
think we talked about this that much in the few meetings we had with this applicant.
Okay, also, just Teresa, so you know, I'm speaking on behalf of the city code because there's two
Mhm.
things that were brought up that were not presented. And it's that after hours and it's the deliveries. So I
Okay,
want to bring that to your board's attention as they're doing their review. They really need to think about what they're doing with that. That's all. That's why I wanted to bring that to your attention.
This is really helpful, and I think we'll want to continue to look at alley deliveries versus North 4th Street deliveries. I think that context that Craig just provided on how other businesses are handling their deliveries on Warren is really helpful for us. So
Absolutely.
I think this is something we'll want to continue to study, but this discussion has been very helpful as we figure out.
Again, I want to go back to my concern, which is that it seems to me that given the front door of the hotel is on 4th Street, that the delivery driver is going to drive down 4th Street, turn right on Prison Alley, and the unloading spot is going to be essentially east of your property line, right out of the back of the vehicle. And that's, you know, the directly across the alley there is Helsinki, which, you know, it's a pinch point that I can see being quite an issue for.
right. Suppose they get a delivery.
Yeah, I mean, and in a way, it's, you know, moving the it's called a nuisance, moving the nuisance onto the a Butters alley. You know, you can't make the driver come westbound down Prison Alley so that they park with their nose facing 4th Street, right? Like the natural instinct is going to turn right onto the alley. And, you know, I sort of like the trash and service thing being along the property line, but it does create a pinch point as a result on the alley side. What's the laundry service going to be like in the building? Is that going to be done internally, or does that get shipped out, or do we know that yet?
That's still something we're looking at. We're anticipating it's going to be shipped out.
You know, I mean, it's, you know, this is an issue at the maker, but they own the building across the alley from them. So in some ways it's mitigated, right? And you got that
their problem is when other people are trying to get by.
Right.
You know, they got the whole alley blocked. I don't think we did much discussion about this. At least I don't remember. Anybody on the board remembers? Clark?
No.
No,
so.
I try to chime in. I have a property for many years on Warren Street and Prison Alley next to La Perche. And it's true, they have deliveries from the alleyway. And it's true, sometimes it's blocked by a truck dropping stuff off. I think to Craig's point, that's sort of common practice in the city of Hudson. And my experience, even though it's a pain to sort of back out and go around the other way, which happens, I'm not sure what else you do except use the alley for what it was built for, and temporary blockage of the alleyway, I think, is maybe problematic, but it's very common.
So are we wrong for trying to maybe find another way?
No, but I'm not sure what that could be. There's only really 2 entrances.
Yeah, I would imagine if deliveries have to happen, if there was the option of it being on 4th Street versus the alley, it seems like the alley would be the better solution. And I agree. I mean, I'm used to kind of, you know, I kind of look down the alley before I turn because I'm just expecting a truck to be there anyway.
Hundreds of times in my experience.
For sure.
It's annoying, but I guess as Craig points out too, it's like that's what the alleys are for, and it's much better on the alley than on 4th Street in this situation.
Can they make more of a pull-in? Expand that pull-in, Larry? Do you think they can, you know, like make it wider or bigger so they can go closer to their building or something like that?
I mean, you could, but then you're giving up valuable real estate for a truck.
For a truck.
We had the same issue on the hotel on Union Street, right? We talked about the same thing. They're going to be doing deliveries on the alleyway.
You mean 601, that one?
Yeah.
Any questions? Any more questions from the planning board? Okay, I'm gonna open it up to the public. Okay, Margaret? Margaret? Okay,
Thank
Margaret, please. We're giving everybody 3 minutes, okay?
Thank you. Yes, first of all, I want to agree with Craig. And a couple of months ago, we had a discussion around this hotel relating to the use of 4th Street and taking all of the parking spaces on, I don't know which side, the side that the hotel is on, from Warren to Columbia. And a day after the meeting, I was walking down Warren Street and I looked down Columbia. I looked down that street, 4th Street from Warren to Columbia. There was not a single empty space. And I really am concerned about the people living on Columbia, people living in that neighborhood, losing parking spaces. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any more public comment?
Hi, Teresa. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble raising my hand. It's Dominic.
That's okay, Dominic. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Just a couple of things with the traffic study. Now, 4th and Columbia is probably the biggest area for accidents. Did the traffic study have any information on how many accidents 4th and Columbia actually has in the city? Also, is there a bigger issue because 4th, that area is a one-way street. So isn't that going to be more of an issue when you have deliveries on a one-way street?
What do you mean by that?
Well, in terms of, in terms of their, the blocking and also, visibility on a one-way street, trying to get around, that area.
Well, I think just the fact that they're going to be blocking, taking up parking space, blocking, because you're going to have two sides of the street parking. So according on the width of that truck, another truck may not be able to pass or, stuff like that. So, yeah.
And I thought that area on 4th was also supposed to be the handicap parking on that. Is that not on 4th? Is that another location for the handicap parking?
Did they have handicap parking on their site plan? Gary?
Rod, do you have that on the drawings?
Rod?
Yep, I'm here. I was muted, sorry. Just looking over to the plan, we know that the area on 4th would support accessible parking. There is not a space delineated out specifically, other than the ability to use the flush curb area in front of the entrance on North 4th, which is about mid-block between 4th and Prison Alley.
So you do not show handicap parking on your site plan?
We don't show a designated space for that, no.
Aren't they supposed to?
Rod, do you want to share your screen and show some of the potential locations that we're considering, and then we can
I can do that.
consider input from the planning board?
I think, Matthew, do you have to release?
I mean, we've asked this of every other hotel, so we might as well ask it of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, I need you, Matthew, if you can stop sharing.
Yeah, I'm looking for where to, I'm sorry, I'm looking for where to do that. Stop share, got it, okay, go ahead.
All right, we'll do. So again, here's the overall site plan.
Is that Warren that you're?
This is my cursor's Warren Street, and then North 4th. There's an alley, of course, and then the intersection with Columbia is further up. We know that it is at grade. It's accessible along the entire frontage along North 4th. We added just as more as a continuation of the sidewalk, and the right thing to do anyway, is we have a curb ramp with detectable warning at the corner of Prison and North 4th. Having looked at it, we know a handicap car could park here. We don't have any formally gridded out parking along this frontage, so we're not showing a designated spot at this time.
But if we were to show on Rod, and we certainly can show on, would it be up on that Prison Alley side of North 4th?
We can do it anywhere along the frontage, and we talked about it, just I guess logistically. The area closer to the actual designated entrance to the hotel, either on this side of that entrance or immediately on this side, would be the most sensible. We wouldn't need to affect any sidewalk or create any bump out into North 4th, which is something I think we're all trying to avoid, us in the city. So yeah, it could go on either side.
I mean, I would like to see that on your site plan. Dominic, are you there?
Yeah, I would like to see, what it looks like, and also, obviously direct access to the entrance and the grade. Especially if it's also not just to the hotel, we're talking also to frequent any of the businesses that are going to be, in front.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dominic, for bringing that point to light. Any more questions from the public? Okay. Dan, I think that's something. Can you come back to us with that?
Absolutely. We will
something
come
important.
back with drawings that reflect the handicap parking space. We're also going to come back to the planning board with our updated EAF forms to address the comments related to the archaeologically sensitive area. So we'll get that out ahead of the next planning board meeting.
Okay.
And then, based on the discussion tonight, I think the alley really does need to be where you deal with deliveries. I just think you need to think it through so that if you have to tweak the site plan at all, it can be done in time for our next session.
Can you give yourself more space? Can you give yourself a bigger space to pull in, kind of get closer to the building on the alley without taking up anything?
I'm not sure if we can do that without really disrupting the program on the inside of the building, but what we can do is we'll spend more time thinking this through, and then we'll come back with information on how we see the deliveries actually working in the alley. So we'll come back with a kind of logistics plan to outline how we think it'll work. But this has been really helpful for us in thinking this through.
Teresa, do you mind if I chime in with a couple comments?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Dan, as far as specifically for deliveries, I think it'd be really useful to know the frequency and the potential duration of the deliveries. If it's laundry drop off, does that take 20 minutes or 5? I think the use of the alleys is really common, not only in the city of Hudson, but in a lot of cities for these types of deliveries. And I did double check the width of North 4th Street. So even if they are using the additional parking lane with a truck, there's still sufficient room for the drive aisle for passing traffic.
Okay.
So as a backup plan, you don't need to worry about a truck stopping along the North 4th Street curb line, interfering with another truck going by.
Okay. Thank you, Lindsay, because I want everybody to understand, even though it's what has been done, the alley, we have a chance maybe to change things. The Hudson today is not your Hudson of yesterday or your parents or grandparents' Hudson. We have a lot of things coming here. So, every hotel is going to be an alley. Next thing you know, the alley is not going to be, it's going to be a different type of alley. Okay. So I do want you to look at that, see what you can do. Okay?
Absolutely.
You're gonna be the one to make the change or start the change. Okay, so.
Could you stop sharing, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Victoria, do we leave the meeting open?
We should do a motion to continue the public hearing to August 9th.
Okay, can I get a motion? to
Teresa, can I say
continue?
something?
Yes.
Yeah, the deliveries in the alleys years ago, most of the deliveries were made on Warren Street. So in years past, there's a few police commissioners that wanted to do away with that and approved the use of alleyways for deliveries. Now, most of your deliveries are 10 to 15 minutes. It's an inconvenience to the motoring public, but to keep the traffic off of Warren Street from being bottled up, it was okay to make the deliveries in the alleys. And probably when our forefathers designed a city, that was the purpose of the alleyways, was for access to future businesses. And the handicap zones, they have to be approved by the city police department and I believe Rob Perry from the DPW. Is there any reason why a handicap spot couldn't be on Warren Street? It's not at the front door, but it's within a minimum amount of feet to have a handicap space on Warren Street, or even on the other side, more than one handicap zone for the general area, for the general public.
Or to have just a dedicated handicap entrance on Warren Street as opposed to on 4th Street. Rather than have the person park on the street, go around the corner, park on the street and go directly into the building.
Right. Okay.
Just a thought, but it would seem to me to be a little less. And you're right, Gene. If you look at the back of a lot of the buildings where they still remain, there are loading docks on the back of many of the buildings. So
and they're still being used.
Exactly.
It's an accepted practice. It's always been that way.
Yep.
And it's just like the parking in the city. It's a problem. And so are the delivery zones.
I think problem is our middle name on the planning board, HPC.
Okay, Craig.
Yes.
Craig.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just want to, Charmy, as I always do when it comes to parking for handicap, what's required by the code is not required when they don't have a parking lot. So when you create an on-street public parking and a handicap zone, just so you're aware, that handicap parking spot becomes available to anybody who has a handicap sticker in their window. You can't designate it just for one business. And all parking has to be approved by the police commissioner per the city charter and city code.
Okay.
So yeah, I brought this up before when we talked about it a few years ago for the district depot. Same thing. If you put an on-street handicap parking spot, anybody can park there because it's a public street and it's a public spot.
I remember that now. Yep.
So you're right. Should we have some handicap spots down in that neck of the woods? Absolutely. But just so you understand, this project isn't going to be able to provide that. That has to be approved by the police commissioner. That's all.
Thanks.
Are you saying they can't put it on their site plan?
Well, I can't say whether they can or not.
Oh,
What I
okay.
can say is that it's not required because handicap parking, as per the building code, is required in a parking lot for every one spot for every 25 parking spots. So when a business is presenting a site plan and they don't have a parking lot, in most cases, their design folks aren't even thinking handicap parking because they don't have a parking spot to give them. So they have to go to the police commissioner first to get approval for a handicap parking spot on a public street. Then the question is, who is that parking spot for? It's a public street. So I don't know how you can tell somebody with a handicap sticker that they can't park there. So that's why most most property owners that don't have parking lots, that's why this conversation always comes up, is because as per their design and their plan, their building plan, it's not required because they don't have a parking lot. That's why when I do the review, I don't see a parking lot. I don't even look for handicap parking because it's not required as per the building code.
Sandra.
We would like to see it in your, in your plans, Dan, please.
We're happy to do that, and we can include a note as we did for our Depot District submission, which specifies exactly what Craig is pointing out, that, it's a location that we're recommending, and we'll ask the police chief to approve it, but it's not, it's not.
We understand that, but Clark, you were going to ask a question.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Any more questions from the public? Okay, we were going to do a motion to keep the meeting open, right? Did we get a motion?
No.
Okay, can we get a motion to keep the public hearing open for 402, 406 Warren?
To
So
August
moved.
9th. Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So that's it. See you next month. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, now we'll go to new business. I mean, old business. We don't have to have a motion for that, right? Right, Victoria, just go into old business.
Yeah, right. Just go to the next item.
The next item is 508, 510 State Street, and that's Mr. Doyle, and I do believe he had a fire in his building. Mr. Doyle, are you here?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Right, but I want to ask you a question before we get started and go any further. Did you ever receive notification that you owe escrow
Oh, escrow on what?
of $1,000 for the planning board?
Oh, I did not receive that.
Okay. So we're going to notify you that you do. We
Okay.
established that, your first time you came, right?
Can I?
It's established
well,
in June.
I owe escrow to the planning board. Is there somewhere I could pick up the letter physically? I believe the address you have on file should be correct.
Can we email it to him, Victoria? Or should Linda mail it to him?
Linda can email it if she has the signed copy of the resolution.
Okay, yeah. Linda, what would you need? His email address? Because we don't have your email. I don't have it. Do you have it, Linda?
Sure. Should I just share it with Linda or?
Yeah, why don't you share it with Linda so you don't get spammed?
Right. Because you were just
saying it aloud.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. So you want me to say my email address?
Yeah.
It's a PATRICK.
No, just email it to Linda Finoff.
You can maybe private chat her.
Yeah, privately chat her or something like that.
Who is Linda? Linda what?
Linda, raise your hand so he can see where you are. She's right there.
Okay, she's on the board.
Yeah, she's the secretary for the board. If you
Okay.
put her name in, Linda Finoff. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll,
Right, yeah, I'll take care of that. Sorry, I just never got the letter.
Okay, that's what Victoria said. You probably didn't get the letter. Okay, do
Okay.
you have new plans for us? Last time
I
we were
do.
here, we asked you, because none of us got a copy of them.
Okay,
Okay, so
I
you
do.
represent?
I do have new plans, and I shared them with Craig about a month ago. And
Okay, so you want to present?
sure.
Okay, can you share your screen?
Okay, so can you guys see this?
It's loading. Yep, we can see it.
Okay, so
That's good.
so I'm working on 508 and 510 State Street, and at the moment the building is permitted to have 6 residential units, which looking at the front elevation makes sense. You have 508 on the west side here, and 510 on the east side.
So
And,
that little dot, those little dots is the division?
yeah, so these 8 or what is it? These 7 windows and a door is the 508 side, and then there's a wall right down the center.
Right.
It's basically symmetrical on the front, and then on the other side it's the same thing.
It's 8 windows. Yeah, 8 windows each. Okay, great.
So, so I would imagine that, when the building was, given 6 residential units, that they imagined, like 1 unit on each side on each of the floors, which makes 6 units. But as I've been, drawing the building and trying to put it back together, it seems that it might be appropriate that I could add 2 units on the garden level, and I'll show them to you on plan in a minute. But I just wanted to point out that, so State Street is on the right here, and then Rope Alley is off the page to the left. And you can see that the site drops pretty dramatically, and only like not even halfway back on the building, it's like already down about 9 feet. So I want to use these openings to create like a smaller garden level apartments on both sides. So I'll explain to you how you'll get to them. So starting at so this is the first floor, right? State Street is at the bottom. Rope Alley is off the page on the top. So the resident of these apartments would walk along the sidewalk here, go through a combination lock gate, walk down the steps we were just looking at, and then walk down here. And then, so this is the first level. I'll go down to the bottom floor, or the garden level. And once down on the garden level, one resident could take a right here and turn into, what's a small but effective apartment. You see there's a 13 by 8 bedroom with a nice big window. And, they all meet the fresh air and light requirements. And, you have a modest kitchen, substantial storage, and I'm making the bathrooms ADA accessible on the possibility that they can be handicapped accessible. While I am making the units that way, what I'm struggling with now is figuring out the ramps on the site relative to the grade, so they might not be accessible, but there's nothing I can do about that. The other tenants would, rather than entering here, continue over to this door and enter to a kitchen area here, a small bedroom, a bathroom, and what here could be either another bedroom or, like a family room type thing. So I'm imagining that, like, if I were to be like, in quotes, adding units, these would be the 2 units that would be the most questionable. But as you can see, there's like ample fresh air, ample light, and I don't see why it shouldn't be feasible. And I'm just here to bounce it off of you guys.
Can you show us the site plan?
Oh, I can't figure why it's not loading. There it is. So this is the site plan where you have State Street on the bottom here, and then you have Rope Alley on the back, and then this is the building that we're discussing here.
That's the entire building with the 8 units?
This building here, yeah. And I would like to point out that it's a double wide lot, right? So you see how this unit is like, about half that. So, it's a wider lot. It has 2 addresses.
Is there access to the 2 new apartments from the alley?
Yeah, so there's going to be a path along the west side of the site from Rope Alley all the way out to State, and that will also allow us to put like an angled 10-yard roll off right here. So there'll be a circulation path along there.
Say that again. A what roll off?
Like a 10-yard front dumpster type thing.
Trash can? A dumpster?
Well, a dumpster, yeah.
A dumpster for the residents of the apartments to use for trash?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I tried to figure a way to do it off the street, but it's like the alleys on either side of the house are so narrow, there's really no way to, I would have to have like 8 trash cans like stacked up against the side of the building, and there wasn't any way I could figure it properly, so had to put it in the back. Very well.
And how far does the building go to the alley? Does it go all the way to the alley?
Oh no, so this is the property line here.
Okay.
Right, and this line with the hatch on the interior is the building. So it goes back about 40 foot to here and then another like 20 feet. So the whole lot is about 50 foot wide and it goes about 60 foot back. And then, there's another roughly 60 feet, a smaller building here and then rope alley in the back. So this whole area is basically like a yard.
Okay,
This is what's current.
that's
I'm
what
sorry?
it is now.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
the
this-
drawing that is current, what
This
you
is how-
have now.
This is how it's laid out now. I'm not proposing to add any interior volume. The existing egress stair, basically the pitch of the stair didn't meet current code. So I'm replacing the egress stair, but that's just like an exterior stair. I'm not increasing the interior volume of the building.
So are you doing, I mean, this is, Victoria, we have site plan review on this. right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, okay. So Patrick, this is, I'm gonna have the same questions I had 2 months ago when you came before, because you showed us this drawing, right? So
Yeah.
what, there's an existing garage, but you're gonna leave that alone and not deal with it, right?
This is not a garage. It's a cottage and someone currently lives there.
Okay. Okay, so that's unchanged, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm not touching that.
Okay, is there anything else you're changing back there? Are you adding lighting back there, or are you
Well-
building a new fence or rebuilding the fence?
Will
or
the dumpster
moving-
have a concrete pad,
Yeah,
path being made out of?
I'd basically, the dumpster doesn't require a concrete pad. It can go on gravel and there's gravel there now. If, I mean, things like that, like I'll just take care of them up. So there's an existing fence along both sides and I plan to repair it, but I didn't know if that was like a super critical thing for you guys to know. I mean, I'm going to repair the fence. There it is.
and lighting, are you gonna add or change any lighting?
Well, I'll have the code required lighting, but I don't actually believe that the path would have code required lighting, and it's basically never dark back there. The drawings show, for example, at the egress, well, and the electric drawings at least. Well, so the electric drawings show lighting at the egress for the front and the rear of the building, and also along the path that the tenants would need to take in order to get to the cellar units. And as far as I know, and the drawings are stamped by an architect, all that should be required.
Where is the, could you explain which way the building is? Is this State Street? Where's State Street? Okay,
So,
yeah, where's State Street? Where
forward
is,
again.
what's the back, what's the front?
So this is
Of what you plan, yeah, the plan,
in plan, this is the front of the building on the bottom,
which is State Street.
which is State Street. These are the stairs to enter to get to the stair core. So you have here the sidewalk and then below State Street. Rope
Where's the
alley.
sidewalk?
The sidewalk is this area here where it says public sidewalk. It's like this along here, and this is the curb.
Where, the curb is where?
This line is the curb.
So that's, okay, I don't,
So like
Patrick,
this.
The stairs that are showing on the plan, are those the existing?
No.
stoop,
Well,
Or are
no.
you rebuilding those, or?
Yeah, they're basically not to code, so I'm simplifying them, and I'm repairing the concrete stair.
Not that stair, the sidewalk stair.
Oh, these stairs. Those if we go to the elevation, I can show you. So when I first started working on the building, the stair, and you can see it on Google Earth, the stair was configured like this, where basically there was like,
right.
2x4s and like 3 steps going up. But if you look at the survey that we were looking at a moment ago, historically, there was a stair configuration like this. Sorry, it's the image file, so it takes a second to load. Historically, there was a stair like this, where you would enter from the east or the west side, and as required by code, be a railing here.
But
So,
that was
basically-
some time ago. That don't exist today, right?
That's true. That's true.
Okay.
So what I'm proposing is that I return to this design, And that's what I'm showing here in the proposed elevation as opposed to the existing elevator. Well, so these basically like fell off.
Right.
So I just took them because they were like a hazard. And what I'm proposing here is, you know, essentially what you saw in the site survey from the 80s.
And is that on your property or on the public sidewalk?
It's on the public sidewalk, and I can show you in plan a note that shows the public clearance. I have to say, I looked all through the Hudson Code and I couldn't find the required clearance, but I think it's 6'6". Let me double check here. So it says curb is 10 foot from property line, existing stair projects 22 inches, leaving 8'2" sidewalk. So the distance between poster projects 4 foot. Oh, okay, so the existing stairs are no longer there. They came 22 inches over the property line. I am proposing coming 4 feet over the property line, which leaves 6 foot of sidewalk between the curb and the edge of the stair.
And Victoria, what's the law about a private property owner building on the public sidewalk?
I was just going to ask Craig, generally you need a license agreement from the city in order to build on public property. I don't know if
Okay.
that's practice in the city of Hudson. Craig, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm here. What's the question?
The new stair is going to be built, encroach further out onto the sidewalk than the old stair. And I was asking whether they needed a license from the city of Hudson in order to do that.
Well, he's gonna need more license. To answer your question, yes. Well, no, the stairs can be built under the sidewalk. What would happen is if he replaces the sidewalk, they would have to be certified. The problem is the existing porches that were there in the original proposal to us, that's the porch he has to go by. So if he wants to increase that side onto a public sidewalk, he's enlarging the space that's utilized and owned by the city. The only people, to my knowledge, that can approve that's common council.
Right, so they need some kind of agreement in order to do that.
Right. Just by him saying that there's no sidewalk or no porches there, that's false. There were porches there. He removed them. So they're still there. And that's what you would go by. Even though they weren't the right porch, they weren't the right sidewalk, whatever the case may be, that's what was there. So if you're increasing that or changing it, you have to have approval. And since it's going on to a public sidewalk, it has to be enlarging, encroaching onto a public way, you have to have the owner's approval. And the owner in this case is the city of Hudson.
Right, so it's like it's a 2 foot over a 2 foot difference. Excuse me.
So,
we'd have to talk.
Craig, can I just quickly interject to say that, you know, at some point Phil Gellert built these terrible stairs and they were garbage, and I took them out because they were basically unsafe. But the survey that we were looking at previously from the 80s showed that those stairs existed. And can I use that as a historical precedent to make the case that it's you know, reasonable to basically just replace something that's like, you know, here showing on a stamped survey drawing?
Well, I think that's more of a legal question. If you have a legal survey, and that's a survey, and it's showing them porches being on the public sidewalk, and that's the only legal document we have, then that would be, in my opinion, Victoria, correct me if I'm wrong, that would be the enforceable document.
Well, I mean,
so
it's showing it as encroaching though. So I don't think it doesn't automatically give right. It just acknowledges that it's there.
right. See, from what I understand in the city law or charter somewhere, and I heard about this maybe 9 years ago when I started this job, that every stoop and porch and that you see on the public sidewalk is already like a grandfathered encroachment, but it can never be enlarged.
So my
if it
intention
goes
is
to
not-
be enlarged. Oh, don't interrupt me, sir.
Sorry.
When it goes to be enlarged, then it has to go to the property owner, which in this case is the city of Hudson. So the city of Hudson is going to have to say, yes, we'll allow you to enlarge your porch out on property. Now,
And
again,
when it
if
was
you have a survey,
removed, it would have lost the grandfathering.
Yes.
Old one.
yeah, it would have been after 1 year after it was removed. So that's what a whole legal issue that we would refer this, obviously. To me, it's going to go to our city attorney, which in this case is Victoria and Cheryl, and say, okay, what legal rights does he have to this? Because the porches were removed whenever, and they were built with these shady porches that obviously doesn't match an existing survey.
And Mr. Doyle, they were removed prior to you buying the property, right? Were
So-
they there when you purchased the property?
The stairs that show on the survey here on the
On
current
this
screen,
one, yeah.
those were removed. What were there are were what we were looking at in the existing elevation, which were basically just like, you know, two
I
by
know,
fours.
stairs going up in the building.
Yeah.
That old porch was not there. So how long ago have you owned this property?
Since 2020.
Okay, so that clears that. It's been gone over a year.
Can you go to the ground floor plan?
Sure.
Larry, I'm gonna ask you a question. What's the difference between a site plan and a survey?
Well, you can do a site plan without a survey. A survey is simply a professional documentation of the existing conditions on a piece of land.
So is he
And
showing us
usually-
surveys or site plans?
Well, you usually make a site plan from a survey.
So what is he showing us in that brown paper stuff? Isn't that a survey?
That's a survey, but given its, you know, how old it is, it may not be a relevant survey, right? Conditions change all the time in the world.
But we need to see his site plan. Am I right or
Right,
wrong?
there is, yes, we don't actually properly have a site plan for this project.
Okay. That's what I need to be said. Do we have a site plan or not?
Right, so the survey shows what exists at a specific period of time. A site plan is a forward-looking document showing improvements to be constructed and the layout of those improvements. So you often start with a survey because you need the right dimensions, but then it also shows the future improvements.
All right, so Mr. Doyle, you have to stick with that. You have to show us your site plan too. Do you have?
Well, so I'm not proposing to change the geometry of the building exterior at all, apart from, as you're pointing out, the front stair and, as I mentioned, the rear egress.
Right, but you need to show that, right? Show us what you're doing on the site. That's what, you know, we told you this 2 months ago, and you know, we're not doing this to be hard on you, or we're not doing this to make your life difficult. It's just, we need to be able to understand what it is you want to do on the property. And the way that we understand that is by you showing us the site plan. What is it now, and what do you want to do to it?
Okay, well, so I hear you, and I'll prepare that document. But just while I have your attention, the first floor plan here shows the existing on the left side, and the proposed on the right, and the information about the changes to the curb we were just looking at here, right? And it explains, you know, so this shows the distance that I was referring to, the 22 inches, right?
That
And
was
over
the
here,
old porch. That's
the
old
old porch.
Can we call it a stoop?
That did
Right,
not
so-
exist when you bought the property, right?
No, these did exist when I bought the property.
Oh, okay.
And basically they were so shady that I just removed them. And currently there's nothing, and there's like, you know, a roughly 18-inch step to get up into the first floor.
Okay.
So so this is it's the same drawing on the left and the right. On the left is the existing, or how it was when I purchased the building. On the right is the proposed, which was what I'd like to do. So I'm not relocating any of the exterior walls. On the exterior, I am repairing the concrete step because it's in poor condition on the west side. Increase the egress, as you can see on the left side. Well, you can't tell from this drawing, but basically the stairs were too steep to meet code currently. So I'm proposing instead to have an egress that works like this. This is all exterior space and just to meet code. And then on the street side, I'm trying to basically revert to the stair that existed in the survey that I shared with you previously. So while I can provide a site plan for you all, I'd like to at least suggest that all of the information that you're looking for may be here.
Well, no, it's not here, and you need a proper site plan. That's the first thing. Second thing, we don't have any jurisdiction over you taking public property for your private entrance, right? That's got to go before the common council. You know, look, I mean, I would love to co-op the sidewalk and make my own little private garden out there, right? There's a reason why I can't, right? It belongs to the public. So you're going to have to deal with that outside this, you know, this board, right? That's not what we do here. I mean, look, if I'm the common council, I'm going to tell you it's a self-inflicted, self-imposed harm, right? You can easily have a street level door that has steps inside the door, and that's how you deal with it, right? Like there's all sorts of ways to handle getting into a building without taking the public right of way for your stoop. You know, maybe the common council thinks it's great you're going to build a stoop. The building needs to be renovated. I have no idea. So I think you're going to have to talk to your lawyer or someone about how you want to proceed. But you know, we can't tell you that it's okay for you to take the public sidewalk for your own personal use, right? That's just not, we can't. We can't tell you it's good or bad or
okay.
what.
I understand. So I'll work on that with the common council and get back to you. In the meantime, do you see any other problems with the proposal?
Okay. Yeah, Vicky or Craig, I need some clarification. The sidewalk is owned by the property owner, isn't it? The city doesn't own the sidewalk. The public has access to it. They have a right to use it.
No,
It depends. Can you go, if he pulls up the survey, it'll show the property line.
that's what I was gonna say, Victoria. The property owner owns the property within the guidelines of their deeded survey. Just about every sidewalk in the city is owned by the city. The buildings end at the beginning of the sidewalks.
That's what this survey is showing, Gene. If you look at where the stoop is, there's a thick line. And that is the property line.
That's the property line.
Yeah, you even got the benchmarks. Those circles are the benchmarks.
Yeah. In the corner of the building.
In the corners, okay.
So that might be the case in some properties, Gene, because historically properties are all over the place, but here the property line is at the building line.
Okay.
So the city owns the sidewalk, but the homeowner has to take care of it?
Right.
Yes, they've transferred responsibility for maintaining the sidewalks, but that's not ownership of the sidewalk.
But if someone falls in front of your house on the sidewalk, why do they sue you?
You got to clean it. You got to repair it. You got to replace it.
But you don't own it.
That's in the city charter. It doesn't matter. In the city charter, I think it's section 22-3 or 4, somewhere in there. It specifies very clearly that the property owner is responsible for maintaining the sidewalk in front of their parcel.
Correct. All right.
It's very clear in the code. So what happens is when a property owner doesn't maintain their sidewalk and somebody gets hurt due to an unsafe sidewalk, the property owner is responsible for it.
Okay. Which just doesn't make it right, but okay, that's the way it is.
In the law. So it does, whether it's right or wrong, that's what's in the writing of the godfathers of the city.
Right. Okay.
Well, I just learned something. I thought I owned it. Okay.
And now I'm not done yet, please. He wants to restore it to the original back in that survey map. What does he have to do to get approval to do that? Does he have to go to the building inspector? Does he go to the common council? Does he go to the public works? Where does he go to get approval for that new stoop as it was originally?
That's what we were talking about earlier. If that stoop had been there and not been removed, he wouldn't have to get any approval. But because it was removed, he likely lost any rights he had.
Okay.
And so I'll have to check with the city attorney, but I believe the city needs to authorize him give either a license agreement or an easement, depending on what legal document they want to
Right.
use, for him to exclusively occupy the public space.
Okay. The city meaning the common council. All right, you talk to the other city attorney and see what they
So,
answer.
in terms of contacting the common council, do you know who I would speak to? Victoria?
I think, why don't you start by contacting Crystal Peck, who is the common council attorney?
Okay, will do. Thank you.
And then, or you can reach out to Tom DiPietro, who is the president.
Here.
Okay.
Victoria, what?
Real quick, this is Craig.
Mhm.
Real quick, Patrick, this is what I always recommend when people come to me about this. You're looking at a legal action to obtain property from a property owner, whether it's through an encroachment, a deed, an easement, anything of that nature. You should have an attorney doing that for you, and your attorney will contact the property owner's attorney and go through the proper channels.
Oh.
In this particular case, the property owner is the city. It's no different as if it was a property owner, your neighbor's property, if you were encroaching on their property. You would be dealing with your neighbor's attorney, and you should have an attorney for that. In this particular case, you're dealing with the city. So you're going to be dealing with our city attorney, which is going to be through the common council. I would suggest, and you do what you want, but I always recommend the property owners, when they do that, they should have an attorney doing it for them.
Okay, I'll do that.
And I want to ask a question, Ed. Larry, Victoria, as far as the site plan, could someone tell him what he's gonna need on a site plan? Doesn't he have to show the sidewalk and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think
The 6.2 tells you in the site plan. Section 325-35 says it very clearly what's required for a site plan.
Okay, I know, Craig, but I just want the planning board to just kind of go over it with him. We've done it before, we want to do it again.
I think the easiest thing for him to do is just ask the architect who's prepared these signed and stamped drawings to draw a site plan.
And they will know what's on it.
Yeah, they'll know what's on it. They'll know what's required. It just needs to go to the, it needs to go from the sidewalk, the curb, back to the rear of the property and show what's there now and what the proposed changes are to the site. And that's the whoever did this work, Jonathan Trombley, can go ahead and draw that pretty quickly because it's already mostly drawn. It's almost all done. So it's not an involved process.
You understand, Mr. Doyle?
Yeah, okay, so we have the issue of the stairs, which we discussed, and I'll take care of. And we have the issues of preparing a site plan. Do you want an existing and proposed site plan or just a proposed site plan?
That's proposed.
Proposed, okay.
I mean, unless the existing conditions is different from the survey that you have. Normally, we have an existing conditions sheet, which is usually a survey, and then a proposed conditions.
Well, it's
yeah,
different
only
because it's going from 6 to 8 apartments.
Right, but that's interior. He said he's not enlarging the footprint.
Right. So because I'm not enlarging the footprint and I'm not doing really anything on the site apart from like repairing things, I assumed that it would be sufficient to show, only the building, and which again, I'm not changing the exterior, but if section 325-35, which I will be honest, I didn't read, says that I need a site plan, then I'll make a site plan.
Patrick, so the dumpster location, how are you getting to the dumpster? That needs to be shown. Where's it going to be? Will it be screened with any kind of landscaping or fence? The path that you're putting in, where will it be? What will it be made of?
Thank you.
The lighting that you're adding to the exterior, where will it be? Will it shine down? What will it look like? The stairs.
Patrick, just so we're clear, you are changing the footprint. The old stair is going away and you're building a new stair, and it's fine. I don't think anyone's opposed to that, but that's a change, right? So your architect will know whether the changes are big enough that he needs an existing and a proposed, or can just show the proposed on top of the existing. And we can't tell you that. That's really a discussion between you and your architect.
Okay, great. So
and he'll know.
Okay, so we have the stair issue and we have the site plan issue. If I resolve those two things, do you guys see anything else of concern so I can hopefully take care of everything?
That's hard to say because we haven't seen the site plan yet, but it doesn't seem like there's anything else. But when we get a site plan, that we might see something else. I mean, we can't talk
Okay.
about what we haven't seen yet.
Okay, so of what you see though, of these sheets, does it seem reasonable what I'm proposing?
We can't talk about what we have not seen yet, okay? So
Okay.
just take that. That'll be nice.
I think Mr. DiPietro wanted to make a statement earlier.
He did? Craig? Craig, did you want to make a statement? Oh.
I'm sorry, go ahead. What?
Did you want to make a statement?
No, no. I'm good.
Tom, did you want to make a statement?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, okay, Mr. Doyle, we'll hope to see you next month. If you can always reach out to us with questions if you need.
Okay.
Just, send us the questions, we'll get you the answer, okay?
In order for the file to show up on the webpage, should I email it to you? Do you upload them to the webpage?
It should go to Craig first,
Craig.
and then he will send it to Teresa and Linda Fenoff.
And
Okay,
then we'll
sounds
send
good.
it out to everybody, right?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
Good luck.
Till next time.
And would you mind stopping to stop sharing your screen?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
okay. That's good. Now we're gonna go to the second part of old business, which is, and we're gonna correct the address, which originally was 2-12, but the correct address, and correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, is 4-12 Hudson Avenue. That's Walter, are you here?
I am here. Hi, good evening, everybody. Craig actually told me, Teresa, and I apologize, I sent you guys an email. The right address is 6-12 because of the,
Okay.
yeah, 6-12. So that's the legal address that Craig says we should use.
Okay.
So, and I made all that confusion.
Yeah, he told me to, but I couldn't remember if he said 4 or 6. Craig, what did you say, 4 or 6?
It'll be 6-12. That was the original proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So.
Okay, one of the things I wanted to ask you, now, there you go. Now, what are you're building lots only? You're doing
Yes.
lots only for building?
Yes, now I hope I haven't confused you all. We've shown you kind of outlines of buildings and so forth, basically to show what the zoning would call for if these were normal city lots, and how the buildings would fit. But right now we're asking for permission to subdivide the property into the lots shown. And then presumably we'd have to go to Craig for permission to build buildings, and Craig would say you have to go back to planning or you don't, whatever.
So, but right now it's only, your site plan includes lots, 16, what is it, 16 lots for building lots. Okay, great. Yeah, that's something I wanted to ask. And there was a garage there. Excuse me, what's happening with that? Because that's on the site plan.
So the garage is the little red lines on the site plan, and there's a note over.
Can you share your screen to show everybody?
Yes, absolutely. Mary's gonna figure out how many units we really have. Okay, always hard for me, sorry. I don't want to see my emails. I'm so sorry, I had everything open. There it is, great. Okay, so, okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Hold on one second. Okay, so that's enlarged. So basically, I'm so sorry. So I think this is a really good way to show it. There's a set of lots here, set of lots here that all face Hudson Avenue. Then we're asking for permission to get access through here, which is, I think, one of the main reasons we're here to the planning board, to get permission to put this shared driveway in. And then, you know, this is all going to be serviced off of Hudson Avenue. Does that answer your question?
No, see the garage, is that the red thing?
Oh, I'm sorry. That was the first thing I tried to say. The dashed red line indicates existing garage to be demolished. If you can see my
Okay.
cursor.
Gonna be demolished.
That's right there. So you know, unfortunately, it's a nice garage, but our proposed access goes right through it.
Walter, can you zoom in on the shared driveway?
Yes. Okay, sorry, please bear with me. I don't know, for some reason this is very slow. I apologize.
Why don't you use your hand? They use the pen.
I did. I'm trying to, and for some reason it's not working. That was the first thing I tried. Okay, so there, is that close enough?
That's close enough. So Walter, on the, I'm a little confused about your utilities, which we can't read the text here, but on the PDF that you sent to the board,
yeah,
the utilities look like they're running through, not the middle of the private driveway, but through the lots on the north side of the private driveway. Is that just a mistake, or what's going on there?
I think the problem there is that is what I'm going to say, an engineering concept design for the utilities. And at that point, we had a different concept in mind. I'm going to pivot a little bit and use your question, Larry, to say that we agree this should be paved, it should be curbed, it should have some aspects that the planning board suggested were, you know, important for a Hudson, even if it's a private driveway, still it, you know, it should meet certain criteria. So in agreeing to do that, it obviously makes sense to put the utilities down the middle of the street. And I've added a little sketch that I sent you all that shows that in sections. So hopefully it's a little clearer. But if I can just take a second to say, you've got the driveway paved and curbed per Hudson City standards outlined in that little text there. You have a 20-foot right-of-way, which is what we were so concerned about holding on to, but, you know, ample for two cars. And then we've gone to a solution, we're proposing a solution with bulb outs, with trees concealing 6 parking spaces on the south side of the street. So
the sewage and the water mains are not, I mean, in your previous plan, lot 4's water line was running through lot 1 site, right? That's not going to happen, right?
no. If I can just jump forward without hopefully losing everything here. Okay, beautiful. So can you see that okay?
Sure.
So there's a section which I've added, you know, for this very purpose to show what we think this would now look like, because if we do as the planning board suggested and do a paved crown street with curbs and ramped access and so forth, it makes all the sense in the world just to do a Rob Perry street. And Rob Perry says the best thing is just run them right down the middle of the street. So that's it. Now, the electricity in perfect Hudson standard would still be above ground. And we do have a right of way that we could run that on. There'd be power poles going back to the back lots.
And then what's on the sidewalk on the right there underneath the tree? In the little box on the sidewalk? Yeah, what is that?
That is, with apologize, my really bad graphics, if I'm to zoom in to make painfully clear how awful it is. I tried to put a person in here because the drawing didn't have any scale. I'm not very good at this, and I apologize. It's got a terrible box.
Okay, just make the box, a non-showing line weight, Walter.
My next presentation, I promise to do that. I'm still learning.
I think there are millennials out there that can help you with this kind of thing.
You just name it Fred.
So there he is. There's Fred.
Oh yeah, there. Yep. A scale figure. Okay.
But there's an important point here, if I might say, which is Fred is on a sidewalk, a 5-foot wide sidewalk, which is Hudson requirements. And I'm going to show you some pictures in a second, but we'd like to separate it by up to 6 feet from the street on the north side and a couple of feet on the south side where the curbs come in. And we think that's important. And I'll show you why in a second. I mean, I think our proposed compromise, which I'm sure is going to cost us a little bit more money, is to meet the city standards, but try and do it in a way that it can accept some landscaping and so forth that aren't so harsh. Like 2 big 5-foot wide sidewalks going down either side of a big wide street.
All right.
So if I could get out of. Sorry, I'm.
So on one side of the street, you're gonna have pull-in driveways, and on the other side, you're gonna have parallel parking in front of the homes.
No, oh, thank you. There it goes out. So perfect timing. So the drawing down below shows both sides of the street would have the same condition with regard to cars pulling into houses. So I'm just saying, I'm not positive, but if we had 1-car garages within the volume of the house, you could store a car here, and there would also be room on the property line in front of the house because of the setbacks to store a car there. And then in addition, we're showing on the shared driveway 6 parking spaces between bulb outs with trees. Again, I keep blathering on, but to try and make it look more like a park-like setting, but have all the hardscape it needs. So you would pull off, let me go back, I guess, to a plan. So for instance, if you drove down here, you're coming around what I would call a fire department accessible curve, the right radius for a fire truck. And a visitor might come down, or somebody living there might come down and pull in their driveway or into their garage. A visitor might come down looking to see if they could pull in their friend's driveway, realize not, and use the T turnaround, which has to be there for fire department and emergency access, to come back. And here you have an array of 6 parking spaces that would be available. And then these buildings off of Hudson Avenue would all have their own parking accessible off of Hudson Avenue. Does that sort of answer the question?
Will you have no parking signs up? Because how would the public know that they could not park?
Along this side here, I think, no parking signs would be appropriate. I mean, this is similar. There are a number of streets in Hudson that have this situation, a 20-foot more or less right of way, and then, one side of parking. And I mean, again, even as a private driveway, we'd have to have signs that direct people so that there's no confusion. We certainly never want that to be blocked for all 2-way access.
So who plows it?
Well, I think usually in a situation, if we can't contract with the city, it would be a private somebody, just like if you had a place out in the country that you had to hire somebody. We had this discussion before and regarding the garbage, it might make most sense for us to have a private carting company come down. We probably would do this and come down the street. So I think that's a really interesting question. It's something we need to work out, but it is something that seems like it's, it can be.
Larry, this is Andy Howard. The common driveway agreement that would run with the land for each of these parcels would provide that the parcels would all share the responsibility for plowing and maintenance.
Thank you.
And just so I don't know if I missed this in a previous session, but is the goal to, I know you eventually you want to build, but is the goal to sell these or to rent these once they're built?
Well, yes, that's a really good question. I think our personal goal at the moment is to sell them. But if there was a strong demand for rent, I don't see any reason not to go that direction. I don't know. I think, I'm going to give you a really honest answer and say we tried to do just the 4 units of the townhouse a number of years ago. And it was a very, through no one's fault, just the cumbersomeness of the procedure, the having to rezone the land, it was almost impossible to get anything going. So right now we're looking to get planning permission to do this. And we have people who I think are interested in the pink part, friends who might like to build homes for themselves. And then what we do on Hudson Avenue, I think we're at the moment living in lot 11, that little house, that's my home. So I just don't know. It's a good question and I'm not being evasive, but I think we're open.
I'm a little confused, Walter. So is your intention to build spec houses on lots 1 through 6 and sell those? Are you planning on improving the lots, building the private driveway, and then selling the lots to individual folks who would build on the lots?
So again, an honest answer would be, we're thinking about both of those. We would like to see how long it takes to get all the different approvals we have to get to do this and see if the, financing that we have arranged, is still sound and is, comfortable with whatever we're able to work out. I mean, I think this road, this street, this shared driveway is a good example. We were sort of hoping this was going to be a little bit country, and we were asked by your board and we're agreeing to make an upgrade to what we were thinking, which is going to automatically substantially increase the capital amount required to develop these sites. So I truly don't have an answer. Originally, I think we were hoping to build with some of our friends some of the houses, maybe even have some of our friends move in. I'm hoping that's still true. And we're trying to price what this street is going to cost and figure out what money is going to cost to borrow. But as I think all of you know, and Dan Ken on a much larger project was talking about this, the financing is kind of dependent on the administrative permissions.
From a timing perspective, I think we talked about this, but I think you'd have to put in this driveway before you could sell any of the lots, because otherwise one of these lots would be responsible for putting it in.
Well, you actually mentioned, and I'm not strongly in favor of one or the other ability would be to post a bond, but I don't think that we contest the fact that if we sold this property, it would have to go with the guarantee that these improvements would be made and that the properties could be habitable, marketable. Craig would give them this B of O, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, no argument from us on that. We're just trying to decide how to get there, I think.
And does it change this is, I guess, a Victoria question, but Victoria, let's say someone bought lots 1 and 2 and wanted to consolidate them. Do we care? Is there any issue there?
I don't think we'd care if they got bigger. I think, we wouldn't want further subdivision of those lots without additional review.
And if I bought lots 1 and 4, I couldn't then can combine them over the private driveway, right? That's going to be an easement across the thing, and that's binding, right? Like,
Well, it's unclear. Again, these plans just came in yesterday, so I haven't had a chance to look at them, but is this private driveway its own lot, or is it part of the big lot?
It's at the moment part of the big lot.
Okay.
Can I, Victoria, can I help add to this?
Yes, is that Craig? Hi, Craig.
Yeah. Okay. This proposal, to my knowledge, is only maybe the second, maybe the third one in the city of this nature.
Mhm.
The best way to look at it is Academy Hill.
Academy
Academy Hill is a development owned by a private group of people where their property line ends at the top of Rossman Avenue. So everything beyond that is still one parcel. So what happens with it is every time they sell a lot, or if they build a lot, that parcel will now become its own parcel ID number, because these parcels are all going to end up, for tax purposes and for parcel purposes, they're going to have their own individual tax ID number.
Mhm.
So they're going to be approved basically through the site plan. So any alteration to the site plan, again, falls back to, you're going to have to come back here. And that's my question to the applicant. If you're proposing a new street, anything of that nature, that all probably has to be in here as what is the street identity, because we ran into this problem a few years ago up on Academy Hill, and that's why I keep going back to that as a model. And I see Andy's on here. Andy may remember this. It wasn't just the city. It was the mail system. It was water supply. Who takes care of the water? A few years back when I was fire chief, we ran into a problem up there because they didn't have the proper water supply for the fire hydrants they put in. So we had to go through as the fire department, and we helped them folks out to get reestablished. So this is all pretty much similar. And right now, it just seems to me like you're proposing a subdivisions for the future use of residential homes on private property. And correct me if I'm wrong, I was going to ask Walter about this before we got to this. I didn't get a chance to get a hold of him yesterday or today to kind of be ready for this question that I'm asking him now, because we've run into these problems in the past. And of course, we've always been able to work through them, but now is the time you want to work through it the best you can. And there's nothing saying you're not going to come back to the planning board by all means, but at least you'll have it in the right direction.
Right. So for instance, Craig, going with water, the city supplies water. So will there be a meter pit at the property line where then the water goes down this private drive and is separately metered to all of these other houses? Or do we put a city main down the road, which would be unusual?
What they did up there is they put a pump house at the bottom of the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And that pumps water up to Academy Hill. So every one of them parcels, since it's residential, they're not metered. So every one of them parcels has a water bill.
Mm-hmm.
So the property owner pays the water bill until each individual parcel is sold off. You see what I'm saying?
But the city has a main on the private property to get to each of those individual parcels. So is there a city main going down this yellow driveway with offshoots into the pink, or does the city main end at Hudson Avenue?
To my knowledge, and that's a good Rob Perry question, but I believe the city main goes down the middle of Hudson Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
It branches off to each individual parcel, and that's where the property owner is responsible. For example, here, this driveway that's being created by the subdivision, the proposal, they're going to have a water line coming into that parcel. So the property owner, in this case, Mr. Chatham, is going to be responsible for each water service to each one of them lots that are approved until he sells them off. And when he sells them off, now they'll be their own parcel.
But Craig, what I'm asking is, so the city line ends here. This is all private property. So this is not a city main with offshoots, right? So
They have-
how do we separately, how are these all going to get individual water bills? I think it's just a question of, I think the planning board should have an engineering consultant to help with some of these questions. And then I think we need to work with Rob Perry. Do we have a meter here that's shared and then the owner breaks it out amongst all these parcels, or do we have a city main here and then the city just charges the individual lots?
What it works, and again, you're right, Rob Perry should be involved with this, but this is, the city main comes down the middle of Hudson Avenue. All right? The parcel is the subdivision. That's one complete parcel right now. You see what I'm saying? You're gonna subdivide it when he sells each one of these off. So that means that water line that enters his property is one water service.
Right.
How many ever lots that are created. So say, for example, you come in with one water service for 6 lots. So the owner is gonna have to pay the water bill for 6 lots.
Does he also have to pay for the main to go down that street?
Yeah.
No, the water line's already there.
No, the private street, Craig.
It's his property. They're
So he has to
responsible
pay
for
for
it. This is what I'm trying to say to you. He's not creating a city street. It's a private road. So that water line is his.
Right.
So it's almost like,
Yeah,
So-
no, I'm sorry.
so would it be up to him to do like a, I don't know, like a HOA or something like that where the,
In most cases, yes.
We
Okay.
have that. Andy, you want to tell?
Yeah,
them?
no, if I could just quickly be heard on that issue. And it's a great point that Craig brought up. I mean, typically the way this would be is the lots would receive subdivision approval. With the stamping, they would all receive tax map identification numbers. They would likewise receive address numbers from County 911, and that would be part of the whole county system so that, fire companies and other service agencies would know where they were going. They would build the common driveway to a proper specification. They would place a bond. Typically what they do, I think we talked about this, is they would lay out the road, build the road, lay the first course, and part of the stipulation of the approval along with the bond would be that once the last house is constructed, the developer would be responsible for putting in the top coat because you don't want them to do that prior to all the homes being built. Likewise, the developer would be responsible for providing that main that Victoria was pointing out to run down the private road, service each house.
Okay.
They would be responsible. They would have a meter, so they would be metered individually. But as part of the HOA, they would have the responsibility, not the city, in the event there was any sort of failure from each of those homes to Hudson Ave. And so that's where the city gets the protection, which really isn't any different than someone running a line out of their home. Once it hits the street, it becomes the city's, but you're responsible in between. And so that's typically how that would be done. And then with regard to the roadway or the underground piping, that would be a responsibility of the HOA. And that's what, they would pay on a yearly basis. And
So then why the hell do I care whether he paves his private drive or not, or builds sidewalks or not, or all of it, right? If the public can't park on it and the public isn't responsible for building it or maintaining it or servicing it or anything. I mean, if it really is a private driveway and the people who buy on it.
It's not a driveway, it's a private road. And, the code has minimum requirements for these new developments because you're creating a neighborhood.
Right.
Right.
I want to ask actually, Andy, you walk through water. Can you do the same for sidewalks? Because I want to actually refer to Larry's point is like, we're going to subdivide this property. Imagine someone buying the property, combining 2, maybe combining 3 and wanting to build a bigger house, all good. hopefully to code, et cetera. But that changes the sidewalk configuration, the curb cuts, et cetera. So I'm a little confused on how we plan on.
Well, no, they would likewise be the responsibility of all the owners within this subdivision. If they were going to look to merge one or more lots, they would need to come back to the board. The way the HOA would work is we have uniform lots. So we have that obligation set out we can have it set out based on the acreage requirement. And obviously, to the extent you increased it, your obligation would double. Or if you were to consolidate 1, 2, and 3, it would triple. And you'd have that responsibility. And I mean, Larry's point's a good one. Walter kind of put out there his idea of this being a little bit more of a country setting. I think Victoria brings up a very good point. That's what we've been wrestling with, making sure that this is done in such a way that it's handled internally, that it's not a burden to the city, but also that it's in keeping with the immediate neighborhood. Based on its location, I think a strong argument could be made for it to be private without, sidewalks and things of that nature. But ultimately, that becomes a question of neighborhood fit. And as Victoria said, long-term, the Common Council doesn't want to hear 50 years from now, a property owner saying, oh, our private road has potholes and, we're not happy with it. Which is why the common driveway agreement is so important.
And to add to that, Andy, to go back to Larry's question too, keep in mind, the sidewalks are going to be on private property. Because once they enter this private road, it's private property.
Mm-hmm.
So how they do it now, to answer your question, Larry, based on our code, you have the right as the planning board to review the site plan as what's being proposed because, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, as Andy said, it is a development within the city rights as far as design.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? You're creating a neighborhood, even though it's private, you still want that neighborhood to reflect, obviously, the wishes of the planning board.
I have a question. On this site plan, you have your house, right?
Yes.
Mr. Chatham, are you planning on doing anything with your house? Your house right now would be the only lot with a house on it. So is there any plans to demolish your house, or are you just going to keep it like that? Are you planning on selling it or still living there?
Wow, that would be an interesting discussion to bring you in around the dinner table. I'm very fond of the little gray vinyl covered house that we live in, and I personally intend to stay here for a while. Your question is a good one. It's a historic house. We could fix it up. We might eventually ask for permission to do something else with it. For now, it's kind of, gonna stay. It has some nice trees along the north edge, and I think it will be the only freestanding house between 2 blocks, row houses, but those are all freestanding houses behind it. So I think personally, I think it'll fit in nicely on the street. We widened the lot a little bit, so it's got a little bit more breathing room on the south side there. So I think it'll be nice. We could put a porch on it, we'll see.
And Teresa, just back to the address thing, his house is actually 2 Hudson Avenue.
Oh, so that's not part of the site plan. Okay, your house is not part of the site plan.
You're gonna create your own house into the site plan. I don't know if you want to do that.
No, okay.
That was my stupidity.
Okay, so forget about that. I thought he said it's 11, lot 11. So okay. And
I also reverse numbers, so that makes it really interesting.
So the garage is going to be demolished because it is in the middle of everything.
Right.
Okay.
It is.
I don't understand this, the circular house.
Again, I think I have to invite you over for dinner. Mary and you have a lot in common. That's just a kind of graphic indication that there would be a house down there that would be sited on that kind of edge. If you look I don't know, anyone who's been down there, the landscape, because this site was all landfill, it falls away dramatically. That's about an 80-foot drop into a beautiful little wood. And then you get a shot at the Catskills. And in winter, you can see the river. So that's just a house site. And I couldn't figure out how to make a rectangle work with the view. And we'll fiddle with that. But that's just to show you, the planning board, how many houses we anticipate would go here. Don't, the design will change, I'm sure.
Anybody else on the planning board have any questions for this beautifully confusing project?
I think personally, I'd love it if we had a consulting engineer to help us through this thing. I also, I confess that when I joined the planning board, I reviewed the code, but kind of skipped the multiple paragraphs about subdivisions, thinking that Hudson was pretty much built out and we wouldn't have a subdivision. And now
you get one.
And now we got one.
And that land has been forever. I just never knew.
I mean, this just seems like a big muddle to me about what is whose responsibility and how to do it. What the limits of our jurisdiction are over a private property owner's capacity to make a private road. And, if it's built to city standards, what's stop it eventually devolving to the city? I mean, if the public can walk on the sidewalk and they do that for 75 years, does it become public sidewalk? What's private here and what I don't understand.
And my question is, do we approve it and it has to be all nice and flat and just so many, but wait, I want to interject. There was something stated about contamination. Victoria, we're gonna need something from him, right?
Right. So the board was looking for some indication that you've done some soil tests and that there's nothing that needs to be remediated, that this disturbing all the soil is not going to let out some kind of pollutant that we're unaware of.
Yeah, I apologize. I thought a while ago I had sent you all a little folder that has the correspondence. There was before we bought the property, because of the garage, there was some petrochemical pollution. They were changing oil basically and draining it. It was remediated at great expense to the former owner. We bought it with a clean bill of health, then had it tested, and they found some small areas of very residual. We're not talking Love Canal here. It was like a garage where they repaired cars and they drained the oil into one of the things in the middle of the garage floor. And unfortunately, rather than going to the correct oil separator, it went out a pipe out the back.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're talking about. But anyway, the EPA, we notified them, we had it tested, we found a small area, and they basically said, okay, if you do any digging and you smell anything or find anything, contact us. We have an open case. I'll make sure I'll resend the file because it's important, because that obviously we can't sell it or do anything if people don't understand that it's very clean.
Victoria, how does land use law work? If it's contaminated and someone buys the lot and they find out that it's unbuildable, I mean, are we held harmless? Is there what's our responsibility?
You don't have any. The planning board has no liability.
Okay.
You have qualified immunity for making decisions. You're just looking at lines on a plat. The purchaser in New York has to do their due diligence. It's the obligations on them to do their research. It's called buyer beware.
Buyer beware, New York State. But still send it, because if I would like to look at it myself.
Yeah, again, I apologize. I thought it was part of the file. We sent you a big, maybe a document dump.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was there, because part of the code for new construction requires a soil impact report under the building code.
It was mentioned.
Yeah, we don't have to dwell on it. I'm happy to.
No problem. Yeah, no problem.
I'll look and see if we got it on the record, and if so, I'll send it to you. If not, we'll have Walter send it.
It's no
I have a
problem.
question to confuse matters even more. Walter, I recall correct me if I'm wrong, but I recall your townhouse to the north getting approved at one point in the past.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
And then this proposal, was the subdivision completed at that time?
No.
was-
You guys have been here already way too long, and I don't want to take any of your time up this evening, but Mary's and my saga in Hudson began because we saw this piece of property for sale and realized that this part of it was perfect to build the townhouses that we always imagined we wanted to move into, and had some friends who wanted to do it with us. So we spent forever trying to get this approved because we had to rezone the whole property, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So now we have a huge project and we still want to move our friends into these townhouses here. But yeah, this is unchanged. This has been before you for a while, and the approval ran out because obviously 2 years, I believe, is.
Okay.
You'd be re-approving it.
Yeah, but it's part of, it's in the DNA of the whole proposal.
Got it. And then I guess following up on that, I see, of course, your 6 lots they have freestanding single-family homes, and the other one has the townhouses co-joined but on different lots. The question is, how do you enforce that if you're subdividing and then selling? Are you planning on developing that as well? You have 4 lots that are individual townhouses, but they're on separate lots.
We'd have to build those party walls, and there are nifty ways they do them now for energy compliance and fire code and everything. But yeah, absolutely. And originally we thought we were going to build this and that an opportunity was there, but then time went by and that was lost. It's been determined these are a little bit of an easier lift because we could, for instance, build this house, sell it, and then undertake this. So I think, our idea is to build as much as we can. And I mentioned some friends. We have some friends who are interested in purchasing some of these, and eventually I guess we put them on the market. But, again, everything starts, as Andy sort of said, with administrative approval, because then we can really finalize how we can attack it financially and structurally.
So another question that came up was, if you're not building these homes and you're going to sell the lots individually, do we need some kind of blanket cross-access easement for grading? Because if you're not grading the property flat now, people are going to have to come in and do some regrading before they can build.
That's an interesting question. And I have to admit, it's not one I thought of, but I have to say what you're saying very clearly is if house A is built and they do their nice landscaping job, and then house B comes along, they need to fill up to the level of house A's something, and then you have to arrange for drainage in between. So from a practical standpoint, I'm going to stick my neck out and say, I think you'd have to tenderize that whole area. And by tenderize, I mean, grade it, do all the rough grading and get the rough drainage in, follow Pat's plans for the drywall and so forth. And then if you sold those individually, you would have drainage culverts between the houses, whatever you needed.
Yeah, and I think what I would add is, to the extent you're building the common driveway, you're going to have that at a certain grade to fit with what you're doing with the homes. And I think Walter's right. I think the good news is, particularly with the main lots abutting the common driveway, we see the contour lines. I mean, there aren't a ton of them, but I think that's something we would want to have our engineer confirm in terms of, is there any sort of minor leveling that needs to be done, so that each site would just be individually developed without an impact on the other.
Well,
what are the contours on this drawing? Are they 2 feet?
These are actually, I believe, 2-foot contours. Yeah, it's
right. So there's not a significant grade change.
So there's 106. And here's 104, and you see how far 104 runs down Hudson Avenue. The history of the site, it was landfill when they built the Columbia Memorial Hospital. They blew up all the rock and they put it down here, leveled it with great 1950s precision, and then put crushed gravel on top of it. It was going to be an industrial site. That's why it's so flat. And I think our main challenge, we have a very nice natural drainage path along here that we could pick up the drainage for the whole property, and we're planning to do dry wells in this area that would take this runoff, and then the runoff could continue. And someday the city will build Workman Avenue and put an enormous storm drain down that, and we can connect to that. But that is far in the future.
Mhm. Okay, I think for time's sake to move on.
So let me tell you where we are procedurally, Teresa. At last month's meeting, the board authorized circulation under seeker to all the involved and interested agencies. That
Mhm.
process is ongoing.
Okay.
So we're waiting for responses from some of the agencies. I do think the board needs to hire an engineer, whether it's for this one project or we go back and get this master services agreement finalized by the Common Council. So you don't have to do it individually for each project. And you can schedule a public hearing if you're ready to start getting comments from the public.
I'm not. How about, that's just my opinion. How about anybody else?
I think if we got an engineer and sent.
We don't have the service agreement yet.
Well, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but if we got an engineer on board, then we could probably have the engineer's review done in time for our next session, in which case we could open the public hearing.
I mean, that would be our request as the applicant. And we certainly understand that you may need, obviously, to keep the public hearing open, but what we'd like to do is, having been here and worked through it, is start to get the public's input. That's always an art, not a science, right? When the right time is, but we do want to hear from the public. And we feel like we've kind of moved this forward to a point where it's not hypothetical, so that the public's input would be constructive to the planning board.
Yeah, that's true. The earlier we get the public input, the better it is, then changes can be made.
Right.
We can do an engineer with the escrow agreement, right? We don't have to wait for the service agreement to be approved by.
So in the city of Hudson, the Common Council must authorize the hiring of any professional for the planning board. So whether you're doing it for all projects annually or one single project, either way, you need to go before the Common Council and have it approved.
Yeah, things don't work the way it worked with Betsy and fire. It changed.
So the timing is going to be the same on both, because both would need to be presented to the Common Council.
No, I do agree with I think Andy.
Yes.
That's not your name though. Okay. Well, anyway, I kind of agree. We want to get it on it's up to the board. Now I've just changed. What would you like to do, Clark?
What's the question? What do you want me to answer?
Public hearing I'll put it on the schedule for a public hearing for next month.
I think that's fine. And again, maybe a little confused on the engineer. So for the last years, we've been violating city regulations and hiring.
Yes.
Oh, we have.
Larry, we know what you said. How about you, Valerie? You're muted.
Sorry. I think we should do the public hearing.
John?
Ditto that. I think so too.
Jean?
Yes, go with the public,
I think we should do a public hearing as well.
Okay, so public hearing it is.
Motion to schedule a public hearing for August 9th.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nobody opposes?
No.
Okay, so we're gonna put you on the agenda for a public hearing, start the public hearing next month, and we hope that we'll be, up to par.
Thank you so much.
And we have to remember though, this is, right now, we're just approving lots. Because in the conversation, I kept hearing lots and buildings, and it's confusing.
Oh, you're approving lots, but you want to make sure these lots are not going to come back in for site plan approval. So you want to make sure that we understand the timing for all the improvements that have to go with the lots. So Do you
Right.
build the sidewalks before you allow the houses to be built? In which case the sidewalks might get ruined. I mean, there's some timing issues we need to work through.
So this drawing
Keep us
is
on
what-
track, Victoria, please.
This is what we'd like you to approve, but we're showing you everything else so you know what we think it's going to look like. So you feel comfortable approving it with whatever caveats you want.
Thank you.
And don't
Thank you.
forget to send us the stuff from the DEC or the EPA, whoever you got information from on that, just so that we have it for the record.
Sure.
Please send it to each and every one of us. Do you have the emails to all planning board members?
I can get it off the city website,
Thank
okay. I'll do it tomorrow. Thank you all very much. This was very helpful.
Thank you.
Andy,
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Now we go to new business. Could you stop sharing the screen, please? Let's see who's left. A lot of people. Okay, now we go to new business. I don't have to have a motion for that, do I, Victoria? No. Okay, new business is 612, 614-620 Columbia Street. Is a site plan application submitted by the property owner Galvin Initiatives Foundation, which is called Hudson Forum, with an anticipated construction time of a year, proposing to renovate and repurpose the existing vacant building at 620 Columbia Street into a modern community theater. The project is in the Central CC zoning district, and the proposed use is permitted. Now, does everybody know what building we're talking, at least does the planning board know what building we're talking about here?
Yes.
Okay, John, you got your hand up.
I didn't have my hand up.
What's that little thing?
What's that?
You got a hand on your thing. Does everybody see
Really?
that hand on John's thing?
No, I don't see it, Teresa.
Uh-oh.
Yes, it's
Oh,
lit.
now I do.
Your hand. Victoria, do you see it? No?
I see a lamp, Teresa. Maybe you're.
There's a lamp.
Oh, it is like a hand?
No, it's a desk lamp.
I think it's getting late.
This is what happens when they get we almost
like
3
a hand.
hours in.
I swear it looks like 5 fingers. I am so sorry, but it looks that
Kinda
way.
like that.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about.
Okay, great. Okay, so is who's that? Dan again? Is that you?
Still here. Hello, everyone.
Okay. All right, you want to present?
Absolutely. And I'll make my part brief so we can get to the exciting stuff. So
Thank you.
I have with me Dan Hubble, who's going to talk about the approvals we're seeking for this project. Then we're going to transition straight to August Abaticola, sorry, trying to pronounce that name correctly. He is the artistic director for Hudson Forum, who's going to talk about the uses that we have planned for this facility. He'll be followed by Mike Tucker from Langen Engineering, who's going to provide an overview of our proposed site plan. And then finally, Michael Walsh from Think Architecture will present our architectural plans and share our elevations for the building. So at that, I'll turn it to Dan Hubble.
Good evening again, everybody. As you'll see from our EAF, this is looks to be an unlisted action under seeker. What we've put before you is our proposed site plan application. Tonight, our goal is, I think, fairly straightforward. First of all, we want to present to you what we believe to be a pretty exciting project to turn a building that is quite prominent within the city into what we hope will be a really exciting building for the city. So our goal is to get some initial comments from you, any questions that you may have. We're hoping that the planning board would be able to declare its intent to be lead agency this morning, as well as circulate lead agency letter to the involved entities. We'd love for you to be able to hire an engineer. I know you were kind of talking about that before, but get an engineer on board to advise you as to the site plan. And then hopefully set a public hearing to be opened up for the next meeting. So that's your goal tonight. And with that, I'm gonna turn it over to August to talk a little bit about what we're looking to do.
Hello, everyone. My name is August Abaticola, and as Dan said, I am the artistic director for the Hudson Forum. It's an incredibly exciting project. It's something that's absolutely wild to me, not just on a professional level, but on a personal level. I grew up in Hudson. I went through the whole schooling system, Hudson Middle School, Hudson High School. I think I tortured every choir and drama teacher along the way. But growing up, I always saw this building. I always looked at this building, and you have those, ridiculous childhood dreams of, when I'm rich and famous, it's going to become a theater and I'm going to run it. It's going to be amazing. And I'm not rich or famous, but with Galvin, I think we have a method to make this dream a reality. And I think it's going to be quite the project. What's ultimately going to set this space apart from other performing arts spaces in the area, in the county even, is that we're planning to go rather mainstream with productions. So we're not looking at what I refer to as high art, which is rather exclusive, obscure. These are going to be mainstream, main Broadway titles, right? We're talking your Wizard of Oz's, your Beauty and the Beast, your Jersey Boys. These are massive productions, things that the entire county will want to come to. My goal, especially somebody who grew up there, my family and friends all live there, I want to cater to our people. I want to cater to Hudson. I want to cater to Columbia County. I want to bring entertainment, quality entertainment to that area. That taught me theater. Things that we're also going to be doing along the way is developing youth programming. These are things that I wish I had growing up. In the building itself, we're going to have dance studios, rehearsal rooms. We will have a fully functioning dance studio happening in there. We'll be offering voice and acting lessons for children as young as 4 years old, all the way up to, as old as you want to be and you want to still perform. In addition to that, we're also going to be having summer camps, winter camps for kids to kind of get the experience to figure out what they want, if this is something they would want to pursue. I've already been in contact with the superintendent with the Hudson City School District to start establishing ideas of internships for college credit. Or volunteer hours, whatever it may be. We'll obviously be offering concert series, comedy nights, video screenings. We also have the ability to remove the seating in the theater at this current rendition of the design. So if we want to utilize it for foundation galas, if we want to have a wedding event, school dance, whatever it may be, the space is fully flexible for that reality as well. In addition, the biggest thing for me is I want to be able to give the community something that I didn't necessarily have growing up. I now currently work in Westchester County. I've been running a professional 550 seat theater down here for a decade at this point. My plan is to pretty much pick up the business plan here and bring it up into Hudson with the help of Galvin along the way. But coming down here, it's no surprise Westchester County is a wildly affluent area. And I see that these kids, these teenagers, these elementary school kids, they are so far better trained for things. They're so more exposed to a legitimate professional theater experience, having professional choreographers do their productions, having professional directors do their productions, having gorgeous scenery, things like that. I mean, I remember, unless things changed, I remember still painting the same flat over and over at Hudson High School, and it was beautiful, but it was the same scenery year after year after year, and I just want to finally have the ability to give back to the community and say, no, look, you can come and study with us. You can come and train with us. We can send these kids off to college already having years of professional experience under their belt. And that's what's most important to me. In addition to that, throughout all my years of performing up there, we have a lot of connections already embedded in the county itself. McCaden Theater, I've worked there for, my God, I think 15 years. I started as a tiny kid, best friends with the artistic director, John Saunders. We have the connections there. We have connections with Upstage Productions, Two of Us Productions, Rhinebeck Performing Arts Center, HRC, all the surrounding theaters in the area we are closely tied to. And these are people that have already spoken to us and they're very excited about this project in ways that we can kind of blend and kind of create this ultimate force in the center of Hudson for the ultimate theater performing arts space. So I think there's a lot of stuff already in the works and I just can't wait. I think it's going to be absolutely incredible. So that's where we are. I hope you guys are as excited as I am.
Thanks so much, August. At that, let's get to the site plan so we can give a sense of the space and how that's going to work. Mike?
Sure. Thanks, Dan. Good evening, everyone. Mike Tucker from Langen Engineering. We're the civil engineers on the project. I will quickly run through the site plan, given the time and the fact that the Think architecture stuff that they're presenting is really the exciting stuff. So let me share my screen here. Everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So just to orient everybody, this is Columbia Street,
Thank you.
North 7th Street,
Mm-hmm.
and the alley behind here. This is the existing theater building. We're not really proposing to change the building at all. There is an overhang here that's roofed and sits on those columns. That will be enclosed as part of the proposal. And we are looking to add an outdoor patio space here as well. So it's actually two parcels of land. The theater sits on one, and then there's a residential structure here with a garage to the rear of that abuts the alley.
Is the
We're
garage
proposing,
vehicles? Garage for vehicles?
yes, at one point it was. I'm not exactly sure, honestly, what it's used for right now, but it was used for vehicles at one point. So that will be demolished as part of the proposal. And this area to the rear of the theater is actually going to become the service area. So outdoor condensing units, air conditioners, that type of thing. And then the dumpsters will be located to the rear. There is an existing fence along this abutting residential property, and we will be making any repairs necessary to screen that from the residential, along with the back here to the back of this residential that will remain. We'll be working with the city to replace the sidewalk here that's in the right of way, and match that up with any of the proposed sidewalk that we're doing actually on site. And we are, in addition, going to work with the city to try to get an ADA space here, a public ADA space based on some earlier discussions I heard this evening. So that's the site plan just quickly. And then we're working with DPW. There's an existing combined sewer line that runs actually through the theater now, under the theater, and cuts back out to Columbia. We're going to take that out of service. We're going to dead end that here because it does pick up properties to the right of the page. And we will be tying our drainage system in, so it will, sorry, zoom in and out. We'll pick the drainage up from the site, loop it around, connect to that new structure that we put in there, and then run up and tie into the existing sewer here, or the existing combined sewer. And then our sewer line will kind of parallel that and tie into the dedicated sewer at that same intersection. And then our water service will be provided off of the existing water line that's in Columbia as well. So that's really a brief synopsis of the site plan and existing utility work that we're going to be doing. And I can move, I'll stop sharing and we can hop into the architecture.
Any
Thanks,
questions?
Mike.
Yep. Actually, if there's any questions before we move on, or I could.
Maybe it's like, so the existing house that, that.
Yes.
You own that, or the applicant owns that?
Yes, the applicant owns that.
And what's the proposed reuse of that house? Because it looks like it says it's going to remain.
This plan doesn't include any changes to that house. It's going to remain as is. The plan only includes changes to the area behind the house.
And I think in your original submission, you said you're going to house actors there. Did you say that? It was going to be a place where you can house your staff or something like that.
I'll need to revisit that. It may be late for me too, but Yeah, I'll need to take a look at that. I don't believe that our current site plan submission anticipates any changes to that house. We would be coming back separately with a future application involving, the necessary rehabilitation work for that structure.
Real quick, Dan, Teresa, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Your application does indicate 612, 614-620 Columbia with both parcels. But
Which
if you're
is
not
that
doing
house?
anything to the house, is this part of the site plan?
So the space behind the house is a part of that house address.
So you are changing the parcel. You are changing that parcel.
Right.
What Dan was referring to is the site plan at this point does not intend to have any changes to the structure of the house, correct, Dan? But in terms of the parcel, which I think we can all kind of see the parcel lines, we are proposing to use the rear part of this as part of for basically utilities, et cetera, to serve the theater property. Correct.
And as I said before, you're crossing a parcel line for a different type of building. It's a
You've been here before, Dan. I think you might want to think about a
I brought this
subdivision.
up before.
Yes, that's correct. So, I mean, we can discuss subdivision applications as well, Dan Hubble, if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, we
consider
can
if there's
right,
additional submissions necessary, if that would be more straightforward here.
Right, we can talk with let's talk with Mike offline as to, to make sure, what we just want to make sure is that that the house parcel, whatever would be created, would be compliant with code.
Where would you accept deliveries for because you're going to serve food there, like have refreshments? No?
We are. So trucks would come in along the alley and they can back in
So
to
that's
this area.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And load it through the doors in the rear.
This might be the first one, Teresa, that you wanted.
Yeah, there's actually room to pull it off.
This one
Yeah,
would be
a
the
little
one.
pull up. I
right
like
here.
it.
No, let's make this one the one.
Yes.
All right, I like that answer.
Yeah, gotta get people out the alley. Okay, so okay, you were going to another screen before we all disappear.
Yeah, our architect, why don't we let our architect present, because I think that's the really exciting part of all this.
Okay.
Great. Hi, everyone. And I hope you can hear me. I'm Michael Walsh, so with Think Architects. And let's see if I have one or two other people with me. I want to at least say hello. So if Marty, say hello, please. My boss, Marty, would Think.
Hello, everybody. I'm Marty Capel. I'm one of the principals of Think Architecture and Design.
Hello.
Hi. Great to be here. I just want to add to what August said about his excitement about the project. I think we add another level of excitement, and that is bringing this significant historic building back to life and to function within the city of Hudson. We were brought on board because we have extensive experience in renovating theaters, but also extensive experience and sensitivity to historic structures. And we feel that the success of this project will be the combination of those things, to bring life back into this beautiful brick building that's rooted in the history of the city, and to create a first-class performance environment that will also enliven this section of the city, which is a little bit outside the main downtown area, and bring more excitement, more activity, and more people to a wider range of the city itself. So we're pleased to be here. Michael has put a tremendous amount of work into the planning of this, so I'm going to let him conduct the tour through the building as we've designed it.
Well, thanks, Marty. And my colleague Sarah is also on. She's working remotely from halfway around the world at the moment, but she's been integral to this. So I wanted to share with everybody, I have been in Hudson, so I'm back and forth between New York City and Hudson. My house that my partner and I have lived in off and on is right on this block on State Street. So this is like literally close to home. So we better do a good job because I'll be looking at it constantly. So it's great to work here. I've done just a small amount of work in Hudson, but looking forward to a lot more. Okay, so let's dive in. There's some fun stuff. Let's do this nice and big. Okay. So this is what we're planning to do, looking at the building from the corner. 7th Street Park is behind us, so that really prominent corner view. But we'll carry you through what we've looked at so far and what we're proposing. So the building was constructed and opened in 1937 as a community theater. It's one of 4 that was opened around the same time, same architect and developer. 1 or 2 of them are still operating actually. So Hudson unfortunately has been vacant for a while, but actually is in, hasn't been heavily altered. Well, it hasn't been altered beyond restoration, let's put it that way. So architecturally, our goal here is to really restore the historic architecture and then fit this, existing and combined new program into the existing building shell. So I think I did want to address, I think some of you have seen previous design proposals from another firm, and there was nothing sort of wrong with that approach, but we're actually really paring down. We aren't doing any big additions here. We're really working within the existing building. The building was about, I want to say about 1,500 seats theater. So this is the very original plans. Some of the original details. See, these are the upper lobby spaces. So we're using a lot of these as background to look to restore a lot of this ornamentation, which is quite lovely at the time. The main auditorium space, a few of these pieces still exist, like the railings and the original ticket booth. These are them present day. The building exterior is actually, in this architect's opinion, in pretty good condition. That's a nice starting point. That portico entry, which now has been named Community Tennis, which was done in the 60s. Otherwise, the portico is still here. We have some railings to restore and a few things, but there's some really lovely pieces here, like this. This lighting is actually original. It's tucked in under here, which gave this whole space a really amazing glow to the street at nighttime. It's a nighttime kind of building. So that's the kind of cues that we're looking for in the existing architecture to restore. As we move into the main space, this is what it looks like today. Unfortunately, essentially all the plaster work had to be removed because it contained asbestos, so it was abated, I want to say towards the end of last year. So a lot of the space at this point is very raw and exposes the steel structure, which is quite impressive on its own. So we're taking cues from that as we do new interventions, and then in other areas where we do have more historic intact spaces, we're going to restore those. So these are some of the details that are left remaining. Coming in on the left is the look right now through the entry, main entry and lobby space. Like on the right, unfortunately, some of that really beautiful grand stair was chopped away, so we'll restore it. Details like these will restore quite heavily, even as we look to reuse. So Mike with Langen went over the site plan in some more detail, but I think to us, a few important things. We'll go into the architecture and how we're emphasizing the portico entry. The original site plan, such as it was, had a garden here, which is a really lovely feature. It's something that we want to restore and use as a terrace that could be part of outdoor events and programming in the building, seasonally. Otherwise, though, the site plan, we worked pretty hard to minimize the amount of utilities and service uses on Columbia. So even though on the back, it's kind of a tight fit to load, to do loading here, Long Alley is only maybe 15 to 20 feet wide on a healthy, good day. So we're planning for loading and deliveries off the back of the building. And then we're noted the existing garage at the rear of the adjacent lot to be demolished. That lets us do a lot of screen fencing. We're avoiding, let's say, proper utility connections here serving this building, but we are planning for some mechanical equipment. We'll screen any trash and refuse here, and that provides some additional laydown for the theater and other event spaces going on here. So the only utility type item that we expect will likely come here to the front Columbia Street is an electrical transformer. Most of our mechanical points of entry are along Columbia. But otherwise, we're trying to really respectfully restore the site plan. I think that the elevations are probably the place to start. So this is our existing elevation of the Columbia Street side. So there's quite a few historic medallions and details to do that are still extant. Maybe brick needs repointing, but nothing major. A lot of doors aren't original, so there's things to rebuild. But our proposed, does a lot of cleanup, restoring of signboards that were taken away. The support for this largest sign is there, but not the sign itself. Our main intervention, which I think was evident in the rendering, is that we'll enclose this portico in a very minimal glass curtain wall and entry door system, which expands a little bit of space, provides some weather protection, and I think also contributes to that really glowing entry space onto the corner. Otherwise, kind of standard things, we're really trying to restore historic elements here. The other main facade is on North 7th Street. So this is how we are today. Pretty much everything is existing. A number of windows need some repair and a few things like that. But we do, keeping in mind, I'm sure everyone on this meeting is aware of all of Galvin's plans up 7th Street. So we do want to emphasize it a little bit more than it was historically with a few simple moves. One is that we will continue the minimal curtain wall item or piece to this side. So there will be an entrance from 7th Street. And then restoring all these windows, we're still kind of researching exactly how to do that technically, but make sure they're all operable in there. And then along 7th Street, these two doors are original. They would need to be replaced. They're not functional today, but our plan is to replace them. They're actually right at grade, right, or the sidewalk right now. So they're a really good way to bring anyone with mobility needs into the space. They also kind of contribute to, on the interior, the symmetry and form of that stairs. So we're planning to do 2 new secondary entries here along 7th Street and a little bit of lighting along the way. I think the other main way to describe the project is actually through the building cross section. So here we're looking at 7th Street on the right, so the east, and then the left is the this column line. This line is right on the lot line to that adjacent lot. So our main intervention here, the existing building is a slab on grade. It was built up at some point and other things chopped away. The balcony was partially chopped away when it was converted into a tennis use. My understanding is around the 60s, although I think I've seen varying reports of the time. So there's a couple of structural modifications we need, like the unsupported cantilevers are a bit of an issue, as you can imagine. But otherwise, we want to leave this volume largely intact, but to fit all the community programming and the main theater space in here, our main intervention is to build a 2nd floor platform across that main performance space so that we, just provide a whole another level of space in the building. So we're doing that and then leaving the trusses of the roof exposed up top and lacing in theater support tech space in there in the form of catwalks and rigging so that we're really trying to maximize the volume of the interior of the space. While still on the lower right here, we'll see it in plan. These are the lobby spaces and the upper vomitories that were existing and are still intact so that we can leave those and restore them as they were. So going through the plans really quickly, the ground floor, I mentioned sort of outdoor terrace and temporary tents or any kind of setup out there for events, more enclosed entry lobby. And then we come into this side of the building, which is meant to be really sensitively, historically restored to its original aesthetic. There might be 1 or 2 adjustments for accessibility and a few things like that, but in general, this should really feel like the original architecture. And then we go over to the right and kind of standard, restrooms that we'll need. And then this is where Augie spoke about a lot of the more day-to-day community event and programs. So classroom spaces, multi-purpose room, which works as a rehearsal space for the stage above, but could certainly lead to any number of community events or meetings, and after school kind of programs are all planned down here. And then of course, services towards the rear, which you'll see keep going up. As we get to the second floor, so this level is our stage level. So we're starting our back of stage spaces here. This whole space is meant to be as flexible as possible. So the stage is flush to our second floor level. We have an opening to an orchestra pit. Augie has a really awesome musical theater program that he intends to bring here. So that should be used regularly. But when it isn't, or between either performances or other events for the space, this all can be closed decked over with temporary panels. And actually this level, these 12 rows of orchestra seating are retractable so that this can all be cleared away and serve as a truly multifunction space for the community, anyone who wants to come use it. We're really trying to think through flexibility for this space. So just to give a sense of numbers here, this orchestra level theater space could function on its own, or we have a little more seating coming up on the balcony level. So the main space could be 225 seat theater, or about 4,750 square feet as an event space, all one level if desired. And I'm about to forget, so glad I caught this. These are the reconstructed grand stair from below, and we're continuing to these upper lobbies, which are existing. We're providing a few more restrooms here, and these stairs continue up to the balcony level, which is our next stop. Otherwise, people are coming up to two nice stairs and an elevator from the main lobby to that main event and theater space. As we continue up, this is the balcony level. So this brings even more capacity to the overall performance space. We've definitely looked at different options so that, if this was going to be a smaller theater event, this could be closed off and really just used as a tech space. But additional seating, and we're of course continuing with tech spaces for stage performances. And then this is that count below, and this is kind of the totality. So that balcony will have 175 seats. And so with the main space below, max of 225, it's about a 400 seat house. So it's quite a substantial performance space with a really good tech setup to go with it for Hudson.
So you're reducing the seating from, it was originally 1,500, one big theater. And
Yeah, so it was originally 1,500. What I can say is they really didn't, it was more like a vaudeville setup, and they really didn't set up, like it was between motion pictures, which was probably their primary use, and vaudeville. So the stage setup was pretty minimal. I mean, Augie can probably speak to it better than me.
Okay.
So we're building in a lot of modern amenities and egress. This sort of things take up some space for us.
Exciting plan.
I'm sorry. I can always come back.
Exciting plan. I said it's a very exciting plan.
Thanks. Yeah, we were excited as well. And just to round out, the uppermost level is really technical. So we have a control room set up, a few tech spaces, and we are trying to fit as much as we can of our mechanical equipment into this upper level tucked into, we're really at the level of these roof trusses. So really trying to use every inch of it. So that hopefully was a kind of quick, but orientation to what we're trying to do. And I mean, I could really ask, I mean, I suppose answer questions if that's the right time, but we're excited to do it.
Any quick questions from the planning board? Okay, Victoria, so what we could just, what's the next step to move this into a public hearing? Oh, establish escrow.
Teresa, Victoria had to step off briefly.
Okay.
But we can move forward with classifying the project under SECRA and moving to refer it to the other agencies.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
I need a vote on that.
I can share my screen to show the resolution, and then you can And then you can have a motion to adopt it if everyone approves. Would it be helpful for me to read it?
Sure.
Highlight some of it. Okay, so whereas the applicant Galvin Initiatives Foundation has applied for site plan and subdivision approval to redevelop an existing vacant residential structure located at 612 Columbia Street and to renovate and rehabilitate a former theater at 614-620 Columbia Street into a community theater in the city of Hudson in the Central Commercial Zoning District. And whereas the project is depicted on a site plan entitled City of Hudson Community Theater, dated October 28th, 2021. And whereas pursuant to City of Hudson zoning law, the project is permitted in the Central Commercial Zoning District, subject to site plan approval. And whereas the project is located within the National Register listed Hudson Historic District, and whereas the applicant has submitted a full environmental assessment form dated June 2nd, 2022, and whereas in accordance with the State Environmental Quality Review Act, the Planning Board is required to determine the classification of the proposed project. And whereas a project that does not appear on the type 1 or type 2 list is deemed an unlisted action. And whereas the project is located within 500 feet of property located at 13 North 6th Street and 562 Warren Street, which are owned by Columbia County. That's the Columbia County Treasurer and the Department of Motor Vehicles. And whereas pursuant to Section 239M of the General Municipal Law, projects located within 500 feet of county or state-owned land must be referred to Columbia County Planning Board. Now, therefore, be it resolved that if you adopt this, that the Planning Board classifies the project as an unlisted action under SECRA, declares its intent to serve as lead agency in a coordinated review of the project under SECRA, and directs its secretary to circulate notice to all their other involved and interested agencies, and directs its secretary to refer the plan to the Columbia County Planning Board.
Todd, can you just go through the involved and interested agencies there so we see?
Oh, I see.
So SHPO and the Historic Preservation Commission, because it's a historic building and in the historic district. The Department of Transportation, I'll have to check with Victoria. I feel like that might be unnecessary.
It is on a state highway.
Okay, that's
Columbia
true.
Street.
Yeah, it's state highway and a truck route.
Right.
And then the Health Department, I'm assuming because of the sewer issues, but again, I can check with Victoria on that one. The IDA, I believe they have an application before the IDA. And DPW.
We don't have an application to the IDA at this time.
Oh, you don't? Okay, then we'll take that one out. DPW, the Fire Department, and the Zoning Board of Appeals. We believe that they might need a height variance, but we're waiting to hear back from code enforcement on that.
Okay.
I mean, look, I'm not sure. Why wouldn't this be HPC's lead agency? I mean, it seems to me that the issues that this project entails are going to really involve appropriateness and coordination with SHPO. Look, I like to be in charge, but
no kidding.
Do we need to be? We pass this cup? I mean,
is the applicant presented or applied to the Preservation Commission yet? Dan?
No.
No.
Yeah, and normally the process that we follow is we take this through to get site plan approval, and then we go to the HPC to get the certificate of appropriateness.
I mean, what are our site plan issues going to be, right? The ever-ending, never-ending parking question will arise. It looks like there's a little pull-off at the back for deliveries. I would imagine that we might have some issues regarding the cluster of HVAC equipment on the former backyard of the house. I mean, what other?
Depending on how we want to handle the second lot, we may need to do a subdivision approval as part of that. Depending on, whether we'll do this as a consolidation or a lot line adjustment or something along those lines. But
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
requires your approval.
Maybe we do have to take this, because it seems to me then Craig might advise that, I don't know what the rules are on mechanical equipment inside of a rear yard setback, right? Like if you subdivide, you could have another issue there, right? In which,
Well, we would probably just do, we got to check. We have to have Mike take a look at the bulk requirements for that house lot. So, we're not triggering any variances needed there, but it might make sense. I mean, I'm just spitballing here, but it might make sense to just do a lot line adjustment where those mechanicals would just become part of the larger lot.
right, but you still have side yard and rear yard setbacks, wouldn't you?
Right. Yeah, of course. We could take a look at that. We just have to have Mike take a look at that.
Yeah, we can go through all of that.
There's a lot of things that are going to come into play with the rear yard of an existing residential structure being chopped off and now becoming a commercial part. Because there's other residential buildings that are adjacent to that lot. There's a path of egress for the residential that's now going to be blocked possibly from the rear of the structure. How are these people that live in that house going to get their garbage and things to the alley for pickup? Because now it's going to be a different use. We need to see all that. It will have to go through the building code before you can do that, and then we'll send it off to the planning and zoning with these type of issues that they're going to have to address. So it is going to be a site plan issue.
Yeah.
We've come across this, with these commercial buildings. We're dealing with one right now that's in the legal hands because of the same issue, and I don't know where that's going to go, but it becomes an enforcement nightmare because now this residential house becomes part of a commercial structure theoretically. So I'll talk more about that with Victoria and Cheryl, and possibly the planning board down the road. But it's definitely going to need a subdivision or a review by the planning board for that. And then I'll look at the mechanical codes as far as the setback requirements from a residential structure.
Right. I mean, look, this came up because I questioned whether we need to be lead agency, and it sounds like we have no choice, right? Like,
normally
do
the
we need to
planning
go
board would be the lead agency over historic. Historic will very, very seldom. Matter of fact, I don't think they've ever been lead agency.
Okay, but we don't have to take it to the public hearing.
Not yet, no.
Not yet, right? Okay, so
I
we
mean,
can.
our preference would be that you set a public hearing to start next month. And we can work through some of these issues with Craig and Victoria offline.
Are we ready for a public hearing with all these other things that have to be resolved? Yes, no? Answer
The
me.
public is going to have time to review it as well as us. So I think we should wait until we get all the ducks in a row, personally.
I would recommend starting the secret process and then.
Establishing escrow.
Yes, that too.
We're going to need an engineer, right? I mean,
we like.
We have to have an engineer because we're rerouting the waste, the sewer, the sewer line and cutting off a stub. So that's going to have to get.
I mean, but should we take it? I mean, tell me, Todd. Craig, Larry. Should we schedule it for the public hearing for next month and then do all that during the public hearing, or just give it one more month?
I think we should wait one more month.
Wait one more month. How about? And John says wait. Everybody says wait.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, let's wait.
I'm sorry, we're gonna wait, okay? And let you iron out all these little things and then come back.
Let's go back to the resolution then. Maybe we can get that we can get that approved and if you know, Linda can start sending out the drawings to the interested and involved agencies, and we can start to get their feedback, and you know that takes its own time. We probably should get those things back even before we have a public hearing. All the more reason to bump the public hearing out a month, right? So
you understand that, right, guys?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, good, wonderful. All right, let's do it. I'm sorry. After 3 hours, my energy starts to go someplace else.
3.5.
Teresa, we just need a motion to adopt the resolution.
May I have a motion to adopt the resolution that Todd just read?
So moved.
Okay, that's Valerie, right?
I'll second.
And John. All in favor?
oh wait, sorry. We're approving it with Todd's edits, right?
Oh, yeah, Todd, there's a lot of things, the spelling needs to correct. I can see it myself. That spelling that needs to be corrected.
Where?
On that resolution, it has the line. Am I the only one seeing that?
What? Bring it back up.
Yeah. Bring it back up. It has the line to show you that the spelling is wrong.
That was just because secretary was under capitalized.
Okay, bring it back. Okay, go ahead, because resolution was misspelled. See that little line for secretary? Now bring it down a little more. You'll see resolution is spelled wrong right there. Resolved, yeah, whatever.
I think it just doesn't like that comma.
And then you got Columbia. I don't know why that has a thing under it. I can't see it that well. Yeah, correct though. And whereas got a problem. I mean, see, I'm not seeing all these lines by myself, right?
No, I see what you're saying, Teresa. I
Okay,
don't know why
thank
they-
you.
Can you go all the way to the top, Todd, because you skipped over the heading. So, okay, okay. Are we ready to vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. Okay, so this resolution has been adopted. Thank you, guys. I'll see you next.
Wait. Are we gonna establish escrow on this, and we're gonna?
Oh yeah, we have to establish escrow.
And we'd like you to get an engineer too, if possible.
Okay, so $10,000.
Okay.
It's just that if you do 10, we don't have to keep coming back to you.
Todd, do we need a resolution for escrow, or can we just vote on escrow?
And then you do the resolution and send it to them?
We don't have one prepared, but if you vote on it, we'll prepare it.
Okay. Can I get a motion to establish escrow for the Hudson Forum at $10,000?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, who's the first one?
Me.
Who's me?
Larry.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nope. Okay, now can we move on? Yes.
Yeah. How do you want to handle the engineer? Do you want to, is that, I know that you guys have been going back and forth with city council on that. Is that something that we can get, you guys can move forward with now? Or at least maybe identifying someone so that at the next meeting we can have that person identified? Or that,
I think that we do that internally.
Okay.
We'll let you know during the month.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll let you know during the month who we have, and we take it out of your money. So Dan, you know the drill, pay the $10,000.
You know the drill.
Yeah.
Great. Yep. Yeah. We're glad to know you'll be getting started on identifying someone.
So next month we can put you on the let's go. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Because of time, can I do this, Todd? We're gonna put the resolutions. We're gonna not do that. We're gonna put it on next month. Okay.
What?
Which one?
We're into old business. So D, we're gonna put on next month. I'm not gonna say nothing to you this month about training. I'll try it next month. So we'll just do A, which is, did everybody get a chance to see the minutes for June?
Yes,
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes for June?
so move.
Second,
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody disapprove or whatever? No. Okay, now we're gonna get the bills and then that's it.
No, we got two other
Can we
matters.
do that, Todd?
We
Can
got two other matters, Teresa.
But can't we put them till next month?
No.
I have one matter for this.
Todd, can we do that?
Right, so I can just go real quick.
You have
So,
to do the.
Okay, go ahead.
Bro.
The
We gotta do the bills, Larry, first.
I
Bills.
know, but this really should have been all business. So we have
Oh.
submissions from Verizon on the screening for the roof of Providence Hall. We've gone through several iterations of review and approval. We had a subcommittee featuring Clark Weeman and myself. We have approved the sample for screening that has been submitted to Craig Haig. Craig, I left it on your door, Craig. I hope you got it. And Verizon has asked that we return the other samples to them. Those are being held by Michael Hoffman until such time as Verizon sees fit to retrieve the samples. As far as I am concerned, that cycle is over and done with.
Thank you, Larry. You did a beautiful job.
I really did.
You too, Clark. And
Our hero.
We know you were with him.
Anytime.
The other thing, Teresa, is that we have that petition that we have to announce that we received.
What? I'll do that.
Okay.
Can I do it after the bills?
Sure. You're the chair.
Okay. Valerie, you up.
I think you're muted.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Did everyone see this list of bills?
Yes.
Okay, it's 6 of them. I don't know if I need, since we've reviewed them, I don't think I need to go line by line, but I guess, Teresa, if everyone has seen them, if they're okay with it, can we?
Get a motion?
Yep.
Can I get a
They're all
motion?
for Victoria? They are, aren't they?
We only had, this is good because we only have one lawyer now. Before we had several different lawyers.
Don't have any engineers? That's so weird. Okay.
Not yet.
Did we already talk about that problem?
Well,
No, we have not yet.
Okay.
You need a motion?
Yeah.
I'll move to accept them.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any disapproval? No. I gotta go. Okay, say it again, Larry. Larry, why don't you say it? I agree with Larry. We did receive it. Go ahead, Larry. I can't remember what it was. I'm sorry.
We received a petition regarding heavy haul truck traffic below 3rd Street. And we will post the.
We did post it. We already
We
did.
did post it. Great.
We posted
I'd
on-
like to thank the citizens for expressing their concerns.
Yes, we all do. We all like to thank the citizens.
It's a lot of work, to put that together and bring it forward. And
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
I have one more issue. We're not even at 4 hours yet, so we're still good. Jason and I, you and I talked about this a bit, and I know we're all brain dead here, but I wanted to bring up the issue of the summer concrete blocks being used on the streets.
But we can't, because it's not on the it's not in the agenda, right?
Well, just an open business item that I wanted to discuss with Victoria.
I mean, you're welcome to talk about anything. It doesn't have to be on the agenda, but.
Yeah, it was just a very short question. It's a question of whether the planning board would have review responsibilities or authority over those, given the fact that even though they're temporary, we have definitely given temporary review to other projects, including the tent at Back Bar. So the temporary nature doesn't make our authority go away. And I guess I'll cite Craig as well. Earlier today, we talked about the city's property being comparable to private property in the sense that the stoop was going to be on public property. So I guess my question, Victoria, is like, is the city subject to seeker and zoning law?
I think Teresa was right. We should not add topics to the agenda at this time of night.
I just got
That
rid of.
was a loaded question, Clark.
I just got rid of.
Wait a minute. It's very simple. Maybe we can answer
I just got rid of 2 topics. Wait a minute, I just got rid of 2 topics so we can close. And I really think we should respect the time. I'm really tired.
I'll give you a call.
Yeah, Clark, we can talk about it. The city's actions are always subject to seeker. Any action it takes is subject to seeker review. It just depends where on the list it falls.
Okay.
Real quick though, Teresa, real quick.
Who's talking?
That's correct.
I just got rid of 2 topics so we can close, gentlemen. Please.
But I just want to clarify.
I got rid of them so that we can close.
Let's hear what Craig has to say.
We're not going to ask you for training. We're not going to say resolutions because we do have something to talk about in that. I even wrote the mayor's office to let them know what we were going to do, but it's just too late. So, Craig, if you can make it quick, fine. But
just want to clarify the temporary tent on a parcel that was reviewed by site plan because it had a site plan approval at one time. It has nothing to do with public property and temporary use. The blocks, the usage, this was all brought up last year about planning and everything. And Cheryl Roberts could probably, Victoria, you talk to Cheryl, she'll straighten it all out with you.
Yeah, I mean, we generally don't have site plan approval over public property.
Exactly.
We can do all this internally, okay?
Well, I'm sorry, Teresa, there is one thing I want to bring up before the end of the meeting.
Okay.
The status of hiring, I want to get this on the Common Council's agenda. We need to have an engineering consultant so that we don't need to hire one for every individual application.
Jean, you're working on that, right?
So they have a meeting coming up and I'd like to get them the information by Friday so we can get it on the agenda.
You're talking about Friday, 2 days from now?
If possible, or Monday next week. I mean, I really do want to get this going. Otherwise, we're going to lose a whole nother month.
Jean, can you need help?
Well, I got something personal going on, but I'll try and get it by Monday.
Okay, and if I can help, I mean, what we need is a short memo saying we reached out and got proposals from these, 3 firms. These people called me back. These people didn't. We're recommending this firm because XYZ. No more than a page. And then the backup data, if they responded or if they didn't respond.
And just from my point of view, we have 2 strong proposals. I think that it's in our interest to hire them both under a master service agreement so that we have the ability to choose which firm we want to use, but they both have been pre-approved by the Common Council.
All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
You may. I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Who seconded that?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Nobody opposes. Thank you and good night, everyone.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thank you.